Wash away the toxicity.
With no passion, and the candles moving, and the candles moving, and it's time for you to join the club. And we go again, critically drinking, stay thirsty, my friend. Burning the clouds and hoping never.
Hustle and grind culture is another version of it. I can sleep when I'm dead. You'll be dead.
It's showtime. Come in and have a drink with the whole crew. Come on and join the panel or draw from the chat. Do it how you wanna do. The misfit thoughts keep the whole chat lit. Ooh, and soon you'll be a part of it too. So come back again, my friend, or we'll come find you. Here we go again.
What's up?
Ready for drinking, stay thirsty, my friend. Ready to love and hope it never. If it does, oh, we'll be back again. Now let's make one thing clear. Because of you, that's why we're here. You give us life, you give us love. That is why we hold you dear to our heart. Come and join the show, cause we need you to grow. So pull up a chair and share with us all of the things you know. Here we go again. Critically drinking, stay thirsty, my friend. Ready to love and hope it never. If it does, oh, we'll come back again.
And like the song say, hey, don't, I will come find you. Easy way. With a hard way.
Amazing.
I got my own platform. If I got something to say, I hit my live button, ho.
Of course it was on mute. Listen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Critically Drinking. I'm your host, Rashawn, and today, I have a wonderful guest here who I heard for the first time a couple months ago. Excuse me. I believe the first time was over on the first time I actually heard Dr. Nakumbe was actually when he showed up for a conversation with I think it was Reckless and CTV over on Black Men Unfiltered. I think that was the first time I heard him speaking, and he had some great insights. But he is here today, but I'm having audio issues, and I'm going to bring him in a minute. But before, just in case anybody has not met or seen Dr. Nakumbe, like Black Men Unfiltered, he's made a few other appearances in a couple places. I wanted to put together a little short clip, about 2.5 minutes, so that you guys could hear some of his amazing insights, which again, I do appreciate this gentleman right here.
A lot of them, the reason they don't leave, they have what I call the flower syndrome. It's not a real thing, but I call it the flower syndrome, meaning, a plant requires sunlight and water. And what I run into is the people who say, true, this person is, and yes, I shouldn't let them, but I can only feel stronger if I'm doing for someone else. And since I recognize that they need me, I recognize the pain they're going through, and even though I'm tired, but I believe I can get energy, sun, water. I believe I can get I can be empowered, have a sense of purpose. So men would be considering themselves saving women, right? I'm gonna save you. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I wonder how I got it. I can fix it. I can fix it. I can fix it. And then the women feel like, man, I don't want to be responsible for another. I don't want to see another man broken, and I want to help him. I want to heal him. So the men want to save. Usually the women want to heal. Much like the sunlight and the water They feel that it's a sense of purpose. They get something out of it, so they stay longer than they should. And tell me what you think of this. It's called abuse. A, I assassinate character. The more I can put you on an island by yourself to make it to shrink your world, stop talking to so many friends, stop talking to so many family members, so I can get you alone, pretty much to assassinate your character. No one likes you, leaves you. B, set you up for betrayal. Because you when you feel set up and or like you betrayed me, most likely I can get you to say, I'll do anything. To get you in my like boom. I'm sorry, I'll do anything to make up. You use you for all of your resources. Take all your money, utilize, kind of just soak up all your resources so you have to become dependent on me. S. So, S, you would think that after a while you would want to leave because you can no longer be with me. This is crazy. But S keep you satisfied just enough. That one flower once a year, that one candy thing you like, or that one thing just satisfied enough. You were angry, but I soothed you for that one conversation where you believe everything's going to be okay. And then E, I control your emotions. If I can control your emotions, I can control you.
Yeah.
So abuse, ABUSE.
That is the incomparable Dr. Nakumbe, who is here with us today. I wish I had one of them soundboards. Dr. Nakumbe, good afternoon to you. How are you today?
I'm fabulous. Thank you. And I will be on cam here in a minute, just as it goes, logging in, then everything wants to reboot and sign up for this and restart that. And then I plug in this fancy mic and then, the computer has to think. So my apologies to you. And you were definitely ready and had me log in early to knock out all that stuff. So I do apologize to you and your listeners. But again, I will be there soon. Thank you so much for that intro as well. Thank you. So it's fabulous to be here. I appreciate it. And how are you doing?
I am doing good today. It's the beginning of the week, so I'm looking forward to some downtime later in the week. But I'm really excited for this conversation with you because I love your insight. Every time I've heard you speak, you're very insightful, and I have a conversation with another, I say a peer, Sheila Ingram from Bravo with Sheila. Also, I have her conversation tomorrow, and I have a theme and a topic, for both of you, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where you guys take it. So I love brilliant minds. So I love to hear. I can't wait to hear your thoughts today, and I'm not sure what he means, but Inya and Kwai Bree, thank y'all both for being here. Anybody that can't chat, but I see the numbers watching. I appreciate y'all for being here, and people that ain't here yet. If anybody watching on the replay, thank you as well. I do want to acknowledge. Now, the first time I saw you, I think it was during. I think Reckless and CTV came over to Black Men Unfiltered, if I'm not mistaken. It was around that time. It might have been the first time. If it wasn't then the first time is when I had some pointed criticisms for Black Men Unfiltered, and you were in that conversation with us. I'm not sure which came first chronologically. But I know one of those two is the event where I first was introduced to you. But both times, I found you to be very reasonable, insightful, and fair as far as everything that you had to say, as far as like criticisms, critiques, observations. So I really appreciated your balanced perspective. But what I want everybody to become familiar with you that may not have possibly seen you in those spaces. So I know I only have a couple people in chat right now. Slow going this morning or this afternoon. But Inya and Bree, if you're present, I need y'all to drop 5 random words. If there's anybody else, a cloud watcher that can drop in a couple words, I need a couple of random words if you can. And I'm actually going to use this one. I'm not sure what that means. I'm actually going to just steal that one. I'm going to use that as a random word. Inya, Bree. But what I want to do, Doc, I want to do space, okay? I want to do something that I've heard come from the clinical space. It's going to be a Rorschach test of sorts. So just to break the ice, We have a couple of words already getting dropped in the chat, and I'm gonna add Inyas as well. And I just want you to get like word association, and I'm just do like maybe five. Okay, I got a few of them. Got a
Okay.
few of them. Okay, appreciate you. So, Dr. Nakumbe, when you hear the word boom, what does that bring to your mind?
I want to say shakalaka.
Boom shakalaka. Okay, I
Uh,
like it. I like it. Yeah,
yeah,
that comes from
that's the first thing
sport.
that comes to mind. Another thing would be boom. Music comes to mind right away, and then fright.
Okay.
Like there's a
Ah,
joke. If one black person runs, we all run. So when you say boom, I'm ready to take off.
yeah. That quick twitch. You gotta get out
Right.
quick. Yeah. Now this one, because we are gonna talk about gender wars today. So the fact that Quiet Bree said he, I'm actually gonna include that. What comes to your mind when you see the word he?
Hmm. Well, in regards to our conversation today, what comes to mind is I need to be mindful of balancing he, she, they. Um,
Pronouns.
as far as our conversation. Also interesting enough, especially the logo or the thumb or the picture on your thing is Thanos, and I think of
Hmm.
he like when the power of Thanos. I think of he as in God. But first thing that comes to mind in regards to the conversation, be mindful, and then the outside of that would be like, oh yeah, that picture. The first thing I think of, I think of that Thanos.
Yeah. Powerful. And speaking of Thanos, we got space. Space. What comes to your mind when you see that word?
Space as an SPA. Oh, yep, space.
Yes,
Ooh, wow.
sir.
Well, immediately I jumped to out of space. And then immediately after that, the test, you're only supposed to go with the first thought. So the first thought was out of the universe, but the second thought was space as in limit, like my environment or my immediate space, my bubble. So that's what came
Okay.
to mind.
All right. Now, Inya gave me a list of them, so I'm gonna go to Bree's last one, and we're gonna go through Inya's list, and then we're gonna move ahead. But I appreciate you playing along with me. I appreciate
Got
being
it.
a willing participant. Quiet Bree says villain. What comes to your mind when you see the word or hear the word villain?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because the theme today. First thing I think of again is Thanos. And if you keep up with the Marvel cinema, I don't know them all, but the most recent one, Guardians of the Galaxy, I kind of felt for Thanos, and this I can't think of his name, Guardians of the Galaxy. I think of those bad guys slash villains.
Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna go through this list one at a time. We got oranges. What comes to your mind when you see oranges?
Oranges
Plural.
actually happens to be one of my favorite fruits.
Hey.
So I think of orange, and I immediately think of the fruit.
Okay. Now I'm gonna ask you a question. Only this is specific to Inya. Do you
Yes.
enjoy your oranges room temp, chilled, or warmed?
Oh, great question. When I'm tending like I'm just starving, I'm going to die if I don't eat. I'll take them room temperature. My preference is uh, refrigerated, so I do like them cold, but I'll eat them warm as well.
Okay, okay. And y'all likes warm oranges only. So I'm like, oh my gosh. Now cakes. Staying on the food, food theme, cakes. What comes to your mind with cakes?
Oh, German chocolate. Um,
Mm.
what's this rum thing I had one time? It was something like some pound cake dipped in rum.
Ooh.
And I don't drink alcohol, but it was tasty. So cakes.
Ooh.
And I also know, I don't know why this came to mind. Well, probably because some of the clients that I've had in the recent year or two, cakes has a sexual innuendo to it as well.
Yes, it does.
So that's what comes to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, them cakes, boy. We just talking about Lizzo. She had her cakes out.
Yeah.
Now, what about the word time, doctor? What about the word time?
Oh, right away, I just start shaking my head thinking about time. Today, as in uh, press for time. But I think on a regular basis, if you were to ask me that, not in this moment where I'm thinking about, I feel bad as I'm booting up. But my regular thought about time is how limited it is for all of us.
Oh yeah.
And at the same time, how much of a benefit for me knowing that limitation. I think the
Oh.
more time I have, the longer I just kind of, like some days ago, do what I want. the more I feel pressured about overall time, the more I realize you have goals and you're going to run out of time.
Facts. And what's up, Yellow Pill in the building, man? Appreciate you coming through. The next word that Inya gave us today is love. What comes to your mind when you see the word love?
Run. I mean, I was talking about, love.
Oh shoot.
I'm being silly. Um, what comes to mind when I think of love is, well, now to kind of think things, but when I think of love, there are two things. One, I think a lot of people want it, and I always say, and in fact, if you ever catch some of my previous stuff, I always say, I don't know if people really know what it is. The way we learned love, most, not all, but we learned love usually as a little baby. Someone saying, "Gucci, Gucci, Gucci, I love you, I love you, yes I do." And then one day we said in return, "I love you too," and we've been saying it ever since. The concern I have about that is, pending how that happened, you may have learned love to really mean conditions. Parents who say,
Mm.
"Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! So you were just going to go to bed and not even say you love me? What's up with that?" And so, is that love or is that a condition? Like I have to say I love you before going to bed. Parents who, and I'm not parent bashing. I'm talking about just things people do as we just do these things naturally, just naturally.
Oh yeah.
And so, or even giving money. I remember several times saying, "Ooh, you are lucky I love you," and then gave a gift. So, but to an impressionable mind, that means what? That they only got it because they were lucky. And so moving
Mm-hmm.
forward in life, they may do things with that premise of, in order for me to get love, if I get love, I'm lucky. So that's
Wow.
my like overall thought on love.
Okay. Not like that one. We do associate the word love with a lot of different things. That's a keen observation for sure. The last word we have from Inya today is God. What comes to your mind when you see the word or hear the word God?
Mm. I think of a higher power, and I think of this is one of those universal things. I'm not too religious, but I am spiritual, and I do believe in a higher power, and I do believe the higher power is God. But then I think there are things that are godly, like water. That's one thing that
Okay.
humans can never reproduce on their own. I mean, they could do the stuff at the Coca-Cola factory, but I mean, we can't produce the actual chemical water. To me, that's like a godly thing. That to create the heavens and earth and people and all that, to me, those are godly things. So I think of a being absolutely higher than I am. And also, I believe I'm never alone because of God. And I also believe that God created my plan. Sometimes I say, well, I'm going to wait till God sends it to me. And I realize I've been waiting a long time for something. So I believe I have to go and actually follow the plan. So that's
Okay.
what comes to
Well,
mind. And just so you know, I'm going to switch. I'm going to enter your room. And just so you know, let me say two. Yep.
perfect. I think I see. Give me a second. I gotta drop something. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. So we're gonna swap docs. Boom. All right, we are swapping docs. Oh, see, sometimes when you're playing, when you don't have
Yeah.
the right insurance plan, you have to switch doctors. So
Right.
we
Right.
have switched over to Doctor Nakumbe here.
Right. Right.
but
Yes. Hello.
thank you for
Hello.
thank you for your patience and your time. I really want to say again, I thank you and appreciate you. But now that we've established a healthy baseline, I want to talk to you a little bit about your mother and your father.
Yes.
Tell me. No, let me quit.
Right.
I did want to say though, I wanted to know what is your domain, Dr. Nakumbe, of like as far as psychology, psychiatry, counseling, therapy. What is your lane, and what drew you to it?
Mhm. Now, I'm gonna answer that. I wanted to take just a quick second. I could not see your chat before, just to give
Okay.
a shout out to your chat. So I hope I'm saying this correct. Inya and
Yes.
Kaiwi. I'm probably
Kauai, like
Hawaii.
Hawaii, but
Thank you.
Kauai.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hawaii. Thank you. And I know I heard you say Yellow was in the house. Good greetings to you. And so whoever else comes in, greetings to you in advance. So I just wanted to acknowledge those in your chat. So thank you. My domain,
Trill.
my lane. Well, I have a few things. So I do counseling, therapy, psychotherapy. If we were to branch these together, therapy, psychotherapy go in one. Forensic counseling, certified forensic counselor, licensed drug and alcohol counselor, and then licensed professional clinical counselor. Pending the state, that's also considered a licensed mental health counselor. Then I'm a certified coach. And what I mean by certified, because you can hang a shingle in some states and say that you're a coach, but actually took training for it. And so I'm a certified relationship coach, suicide prevention intervention coach, certified intervention preventionist, prevention interventionist.
Got a tongue twister.
Yeah. Certified crisis specialist. And then I have a bunch of these coaching ones. Storyteller, but that was way back in the day when I was heavy into my comedy and then wanting to do more talking from a story. So I actually became a certified storyteller. I'm a certified relationship coach. Now I failed the test. I would have been a licensed marriage and family therapist since I failed the test, and I can go again. But ego said, why? I was really stacking them up. So that failing the test was a good wake-up call. But either way, I still have the certification of marriage and family therapy. And then I think two more certified. Drug interventionist. So drug and alcohol interventionist. And so I think I got them all. I got them all.
Yeah, I see what you mean by you were stacking them up. You were collecting rings like
Yes,
Thanos. Like you were getting all your
yes.
powers together.
Right. I really
I see.
believed that one, because I want to be honest, I want to be transparent. A lot of people are like, whoa, you stacked them up and you're da 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 da. It wasn't ego at first. It was actually my lack of confidence, and there was something that's called inadequacy. I actually believed it was never enough. Like I had to go get the next one. And then if you're certified, that's good, but it's not a license. Then I got a license, but that's not the license then I got another license and was getting another. And then really two more, my marriage and family therapist and then licensed social worker. But finally I learned, like, wait a second, what are you doing this for? What are you doing this for? And then I found out my one degree was not worth the paper it was written on. So I was like, oh my goodness. Then when doing that part over, that's when I realized, okay, so now you have met the requirements. Insurance companies can reimburse for services because you have the license and the credentials. So why are you still going? And that's when I realized you're doing too much. So a lot of it was the jump to hoops. Some of it was because of my belief of inadequacy. And the rest of it was because a lot of these areas I wanted to work in, I did need the training.
I like that. It actually brings up a question because somebody at one point told me something about being a life coach, and I'm like you said, you can hang up a shingle. Everybody can be like a life coach, and it just felt too inauthentic. But what you talked about, like I'm gonna use this word, imposter syndrome, essentially. Like you didn't believe in you, even though you had all the credentials, you never truly believed in your ability. Like we're just people. Like we have flaws, we have imperfections, we have poor choices. Even still to this day, no matter how I would say how credentialed you are, we're still prone to some fallacy type thinking. We're still prone to make those poor choices because of like our desires or our impulses. How do we qualify our ability to be able to help other people in spite of that? Like, because that's the war that you're having in your mind. I'm me. I know
Right.
me. I know I went back for this second cupcake, or I know I just cussed out my mom. How do I then go and tell this person, like, you might want to consider talking to this person that hurt you? You may want to consider forgiveness. How do you balance that?
Well, here's what I learned is that it's really not about me, the individual, me. So, as you said, I know if I'm going to get a second cupcake. I know about all these different things that I'm doing. However, everything that I do is relational. Even the relationship with these devices, that's still a relationship. Like
How often am I on the computer? How much am I using my phone? How much? And then the relationship with myself, like how do I treat myself? Am I taking care of myself? But everything is relational. And so I think the awareness piece really comes to how is my behavior impacting? And I don't mean how am I responsible for someone else's feelings or behaviors? That's not what I mean. I mean, what do I bring to that relationship? What percentage do I bring to that relationship? How much of the problem, how much of the joy, how much of the whatever do I bring? So the cupcake is only a cupcake, is only a cupcake. It's up to me if I want to eat it. Now, once I consume it, that's on me. Once I complain about the calories of this particular cupcake we're talking about, that I'm talking about anyway, once I consume the calories, that's on me. What do I look like blaming the cupcake or blaming the chef? Right? Why'd you make these cupcakes? Why'd you? Time out, time out. So I think one of the ways to recognize what's going on or about making amends or how I relate to people and treat people is looking at, one, what do I bring? There's certain relationships where I already know there's going to be some adversity. I already know that in advance. And then there's some relationships I know that I might, go too far, too much. And so I have to do that checks and balance and then have that relationship or engage in that relationship. And don't be afraid to check in every once in a while. Like, are we good? Everything good?
Yeah.
You okay? So learning about myself and being self-aware and learning about the relationships and people outside of me so I can be aware of what I bring and what they also offer.
Okay. We got Quantum University in the building. We have Godless Sewing in the building, and Ine Nia also in the building. Of course, Quantum says she always enjoys your insights, and Ine definitely said hello to you, Dr. Nakumbe. Thank you so much. Just real quick, just to catch up what we're doing. I'm just kind of getting background information from the good doctor here. It's always thank you, Inya. Now I thought he was a professional, but he said it's not the cupcake's fault. Obviously he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's definitely the cupcake's fault. Always. Thank you, thank you, Inya. Now I need to bring you up here because Dr. Nakumbe, he don't know where to put the blame at. He don't know how to divide the blame pie. Which I do want to say, Dr. Nakumbe. Speaking of blame pie. I don't know, and I'm putting you on the spot here. I'm putting you in the spot here at the risk. I like taking these wild risks during the stream at some point. At the risk of, I don't know how to land. But when we first met, I don't know if it was during the Reckless and CTV thing, or it was during when I had pointed criticisms for Black Men Unfiltered. Again, I can't remember exactly when it was. But when I met you, what again, like I said, this is a risky question. What was your impression? What was your impression when you first got? I was who is this guy? What was your impression when you first got introduced to me in either when I'm not sure exactly how you met me, but I remember how I met you was in one of those two. But how when I was visible to you, how did that roll?
Well, okay, so I heard the word visible in introduction. So, and for me, there's a difference. I first was aware of you visibly in a few of Contest TV's shows, YouTubes. And I always found you to be either profound in some of your statements or what I would say level-headed. So some of the shows get pretty exciting.
Don't they?
Yeah. But I've always found you to be, kind of right in the middle. So again, visibly, just so you can't always read the tone, but the words and what you said. But then meeting you, virtual meeting you, and again, the same thing. So, here's the face and the voice behind the name of a person who has integrity, who's willing to challenge, push back, but also I've always found you to be respectful. So I think that's. And you know what? And I'm gonna say and be able to. Some people confuse respectful and they get respectful and kindness kind of mixed in. And I think one of the things I know I felt it when I saw you visibly, and then I felt it when I experienced you virtually, that you've also been able to be assertive and call bullshit when you believe it's there without worried about feelings and blah blah blah. So that's the thing.
No, I definitely appreciate hearing that. Cause I'm telling you, I was shocked when you first agreed to do this. I was a little shocked. I was like, "Oh man, my first introduction to Dr. Nakumbe wasn't under the best circumstances, boy." But I'm like,
yeah. Well, I joked for a long time. I said, I was newer to the BMU network, and I likened it to like being in the gang. And I said, "Oh, it's our gang versus their gang," and then Mandrell said, "Oh, Doc, you got to come over." And if you think of movies, I say the movie Menace to Society. I was saying I'm like his name Malik Shabazz, whatever the Muslim guy. He was in the crew, but they wouldn't give him a gun. He was
Yeah.
the peacemaker and all that. So I said I'm that guy. So then, and I get very visual, so bear with me. We rushed over Mandrell and the posse, a few of us, and Freezy over to your camp and had that big thing. And then Freezy and I got into it. And it was like, we're supposed to be on the side. Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then Mandrell took off. Phew, I'm gone. And I was like, let's wait, Freezy, let's go. So then meeting again, it was, hey, again, same that guy who's like, oh, sorry, we never really got to, it was circumstances. Oh, and that 3-4 in the morning, because BMU was making a video.
Yes.
I jumped on, and you and Yella jumped on. And to me, that was a very intimate conversation. We didn't have a lot of the background audience and things going on. That allowed for a totally different give and take. And then even in that, we even had an explosion on our side. And it's like, but your character showed in that moment, actually you and Yella, because your character showed like, and we continued the conversation. So it's like, wow. So that was my first experience of you. And I was appreciative of you. And I've asked a few times in the chat, the tribe, Harris tribe. I'm like, oh, that's our show. But then I thought, oh, maybe I feel like I'm chasing them or something like, hey, hi. But then I didn't get the response. I'm like, all right, relax, leave it alone. So I'm appreciative for this opportunity to connect.
Yeah, honestly, I promise you, it's not that I don't have an ego. I'm a fan of people. I'm a fan of human beings. When I see like, and I'm gonna tell you, even on Black Men Unfiltered, even though I haven't reached out yet, I was watching a stream with you. I believe you were on there. I know Paul Bennett was there, but I listened to Black Men Unfiltered talk about the people that were there. It was about 10 people in there, but he were talking about it, and I could hear the affinity and the fondness that he had for each person as he recounted his stories with this person. I was like, what I did not give him credit for was the depth of humanity, because I've seen what he's put forth on the internet. And I think the gender war conversation is similar to that. We see like the facade of a person based on like some of their hottest takes or some of the presentation that they'll put as far as an entertainment product. But the depth of their personhood or their personality or like their loyalty, all the different aspects of a person, we don't get to see all of it on display. But I was like, when I saw him talking about the people that he loved, and again that he knew from this space, I was like, you know what, I possibly do need to at least. I believe, and I know this is off topic, y'all. I believe we have opportunities here. And when we have these challenges and disagreements, there are opportunities also to show people the opposite of what we're used to seeing, because they're used to seeing like black men or black women attack each other. Like that's the like we're calling it a gender war because it's familiar to see people in a warfare tactics, undermining, sabotaging, attacking, levying like slander, propaganda. We're used to that. It's a whole lane. It's a whole lane of media. So I'd like to kind of excuse me, sorry, I can't clear my throat. I'm not crying, y'all, not crying. Excuse me. But
deep and eloquent and
yeah, Doc got to sit in on gang leader meeting. Yeah, that was funny. But I'm glad we had that conversation. I didn't want to do the thing where I didn't acknowledge that happened. You know what I'm saying? Because it did happen, and you never know what people's perceptions are. And it's like I'm one of those people that hate when something does happen and nobody mentions it. So at least we've mentioned it. But I do want to get back to the content just to catch everybody that's watching up on the content. What I'm going to do, I have a theme and a topic. I'm not gonna land either perfectly. Okay, the theme, as y'all saw in the thumbnail, is Thanos and the gender war, the Infinity War, the Genderfinity Wars. It's just gonna go on forever. So that's the theme. The topic, though, Dr. Nakumbe, and I want to introduce this in a moment. I have one more question before I introduce the topic. And the topic is pretty much linked fate. But The next question I have for you: do you believe that most Americans, and I didn't want to make it specific to Black people because I do have some people that are not Black that sit in the space with us.
Mhm.
Do you believe that most Americans lack the resources for adequate mental and emotional health care? Or is it more of like we lack the knowledge and will? Like, is it resources or is it more like on us? Like, we're either ignorant
Mm.
of what we have available or we just don't care to dive into it?
I want to say both. And the reason I say both, me personally, in my private practice, it costs $300 to see me for an hour. So we already know I'm talking to a specific population. Those who can't afford it, I say, how can we work it out? Because I want it to be affordable for everyone. Now, what the people don't see is what I put into those the calculations to actually come up to that fee. Because the average where I live is about 450 on the high end and as low as 50 on the other end. But if you're in private practice, it starts to go up. So 150, 200, so on. So when I think about, well, how much of it have I gotten into like I'm okay and this person's need? So where do I put that? So it's either a referral because some people have insurance, but since I don't take health insurance, then a referral, minimally a referral. So now you have why I wanted to go this direction for this resource. It won't work out that way. But there's an option now to go to this resource. But just as much as I say I cater to a certain population, that same population say we want to cater to those providers. That $50 provider, I'm good. So is it about wanting or needing help, or then about the status quo? Is it really about the status? So if you don't have the resources, is it about the resources? Is it about the help that you want? Then there's the other side of it where people have health insurance, but they're not utilizing it because of the stigmas with mental health, or they're not utilizing it because of the transportation and different barriers to mental health. Now, since the world spun around, and actually there was telehealth before this, because I've been using Skype to do my coaching sessions in India for over a decade. So well before this recent pandemic. But since
Wow.
the pandemic, or especially since the pandemic, this technology came into more use. So it should have reduced the barrier for transportation and stuff like that. But so anyway, I don't want to get long-winded, but I think it's about 50-50, or I don't have a number, but I think it's both. There's a percentage of people who they can't get the services because they don't have the monies or the resources, health insurance, so on and so on. And then there's the population that can, but they won't because of either stigma, beliefs, so on and so on, or even some bad experiences for
Yeah.
themselves or others. My cousin took so and so meds, no, I'm good. Or so and so lost their job because they said they were mentally, no, I'm good.
No, that's definitely true. I've experienced it, seen it, heard it. So you're absolutely right, and I do agree because there's been times where I just didn't have the resources. But there's, like you said, even within myself, there's been times where I just didn't have the desire to push through the obstacles to get through it, or I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know where to reach out. So like I've been through all three. So I absolutely agree. There's a pie to divvy up there too. Danny Anthony, definitely want to thank you for being in the building. And we got Mr. He Said of the Harris Tribe Media Group.
Hey, I know
Appreciate
this.
you also, sir. But Danique and New Growth also, thank you again for your contribution to the channel. Much appreciated. But Doc, man, what you said about the pricing, woo, whoa, woo.
Oh, but
That's why.
remember, there's a formula to that. There's a formula to
Exactly.
of that 300. I'm lucky if I pull away 75 because what you
Yeah.
do is you take the formula, the town that I'm in, so you have to go with the
Mm-hmm.
averages, but the amount of rent, the phone
Yep.
services, the directories I'm in, blah blah blah. So you pay all your bills first, and then you
Yeah.
divvy that up between how many clients you have. So if I
Oh
have
yeah.
a bunch of clients, I don't need that amount, but I have a shorter list of a very focused few. So
Oh
then
yeah.
you take that. But by the time I walk away with what's mine and paying all the bills and stuff, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
really only getting about 75 to 100 per session. And even that's
Yeah.
good. I mean, some people don't get that much. But I specialize in these things. So you also look at the long run of how much they would pay if they went to therapy, regular therapy.
Oh yeah.
How much they pay in the long run versus a concentrated amount. So it sounds like a lot, but
Oh yeah.
when you do the formula, um, I could always do more, especially
Oh
coaching.
yeah.
I don't know if you know, coaching actually pays higher rates. To do what I do for 300 a session in therapy would be about 700 to 1,000 in coaching.
Ooh,
Yes,
that's
and
interesting. That's
yeah, and then people
interesting.
with high school diplomas out there doing that. So
Yeah, that feels backwards. I mean that
it
feels
does.
backwards in a way. But
Right.
I've heard a lot of people like coaching, doing conferences, and they're charging 1,000, 5,000. But again, like
Yes.
you said, no credentials. But you have all of these credentials and years of
Hmm.
experience in these fields.
Right. Well,
That's
it's how
very
you
interesting
use
to
it.
hear that.
Right. It's how you use it. See that person with
Yeah.
no degree, most
Hmm.
likely they have I'm going to say a skill set. They have a skill set to
Yeah.
get you where you need to go. You ever hear
Hmm.
those Cinderella teams on sports? And there's some unknown coach and blah 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 blah, and some
Oh yeah.
Cinderella team, and but it wasn't about that coach winning 1,000 or only winning 30 games. It was about the ability to motivate the team, the ability
Hmm.
to gather people together, empower them to sit in the back seat and watch them drive. So
That's
those
fair.
coaches, I mean, they're not there's not a scam. They actually, and then even me. So I choose. I mean, no one said I had to start. If I have all these credentials and I'm not in that upper tier, why? Why?
Hmm.
So that's a limitation on me. So yeah, they do it, and more power to them, and I would love that. But my clients are not about business, so the return on investment is emotional.
Gotcha.
You get to help your kid survive. You get to help your relationship. That's emotional. The
Yeah.
financial piece, if you're going to help me bring in $10,000, yes, I'll pay you five the investment because I'm going to get back. So they
Oh
can
yeah.
charge higher rates for businesses because they have a different return on investment.
No, that's solid. I just know as a black person, I know we shrink when we hear some of those prices sometimes, but it's an investment in yourself. It's the investment in yourself, and a lot of us we have to consider it. How important is it to operate from a place of wellness as a place to the places that we've already seen having borne the fruit that we're looking for? So I'm with it. I mean, thankfully I'm insured, and thankfully I'm actually starting up again next week. So I'll be seeing this guy for
Nice,
the first time next week. Yeah, so
nice.
I became a
Yeah,
coach
well, yeah,
just so I
if
can
you
have it.
insurance folks, I mean, if you ask to see the bill, and a lot of people think, well, I pay with insurance and I would never pay that much. But technically, the
Oh,
bill is about 250, depending where you are in the country,
yeah.
250, 300, the bill easily.
Yep.
You may only be responsible for 35, 50, or whatever the office fee is.
Yeah, I think it was
But
285.
yeah, but people, another thing I know I shrink always even to ask sometimes for those rates. But people have to
Hmm.
understand, know your
Absolutely.
value, and ask. Be willing to ask for the value of your time and the resources and what you provide, the benefits that you give. Be willing to ask for what you believe you are valued at. And so I, I'm not always like, yeah, it's 300, but it's sometimes I'm like, I'm sorry, it's
Hmm.
and then I had to learn uh, every time you say, okay, I'll see you for free. Okay, I'll see you for $20. Every time you do that, who's then paying your bill later? Who's then doing,
Yep.
and wait a second, you did it's a certain price, but before we even get there, what are we trying to do? So I can either help you save on price or we can figure out this is the route to go. I
Oh
have
yeah.
people from the BMU network. They contact me and email me and stuff. Hey, I was wondering if I could talk to you. I set it all up, and then when I send them the email with the invoice, they're like, "Oh, it's going to cost." I said, "Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it costs, but considering your situation and blah blah blah, let's make it work." So I think there's a difference between charging a high rate and being arrogant about it and forgetting where you're from and your people and blah
Yeah.
blah blah, and charging a high rate to those who can afford it, but then still
Yep.
helping those who may not.
Yeah, that's definitely a delicate balance. And I mean, I don't want to get too far off into your personal decision making process, but it's one of those interesting dynamics of like charging your worth and what you actually need to compensate you for, because you have to pay back like credentials and attainment, all that stuff costs.
Yes,
And like you said,
yes.
private practice, you got, like you said, the rent, and you have to have facilities and people to show up at. And even if you do telehealth, you've got to pay for those subscription services and the equipment for that. There are a lot of
Hmm.
costs associated with even helping other people. I know we don't, as consumers, a lot of times we don't consider the cost on the other side. We only consider our
Right,
costs.
right.
But I know
Now,
you have to compensate.
what's
Go
my
ahead.
apologies? Go ahead. Go ahead.
not gonna say you have to compensate for those costs that you incur, and it's on the consumer side. It's hard for us to see that. We can only think about what we are about to dole out, but you have to balance that out as far as like charging what I'm worth, charging what I need, and then also not diminishing your perceived value by charging too little.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can set yourself up in
Right.
a trick box. Well, he must not be any good. He's charging half what
Right.
everybody else is charging.
Right.
So
That's the challenge for those clients who say, yeah, only $20, it must not be worth, right? So they actually perceive higher rates, blah, 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 blah. In fact, my new service, I haven't gotten a customer yet from but my new service, it is on my website, drnakumbi.com. It's right there. It's $5,000 for a couple, and just do a few sessions and blah blah blah. But I'm like, man, who's gonna? But the executives, they will anything less than that. They're like, no. But I do want to touch on one thing, and I say this to my colleagues and say this to the professionals out there. You know what it costs, but also at the same time, how much of those costs are you needing to endure? So if I have an answering service that does the exact same thing as a good old-fashioned voicemail, but the answering service costs $200 a month, and the good old-fashioned voicemail is part of my phone plan, 35, Cricket Wireless or something, or whatever the plan is. So do I need? Well, that way I make sure. And while you're making sure of that, it allows you to do what? Because if the true reality is I don't know how to talk to people, or I don't know how to do that intro, or if I'm afraid to ask for money, so I'm hoping my answering service would do that. Would then sharpen that skill, reduce that amount that you're paying. Office fees. What office do I have to see my clients? Now, pending who I'm seeing, they want a certain look, right? But I just think there's a lot we can look into that we have to spend versus what we want to spend. And then how much do we save? And then how much do we spend out, which then causes us to stay dependent on those rates and those clients to come in. So I just wanted to say that because I want to be transparent about, yeah, it's a high rate. It should be higher, meaning the value that I bring to my clients, it should be higher. But at the same time, if I keep my stuff in order, I don't have to try and rake people over the coals.
nah, that's definitely fair, and I think just to everybody else like that, what everything that Dr. Nakumbe just said applies to anybody who has a small business, a mid-sized business, or even your personal finances. Like knowing what your expenditures are and just trying to become more self-sufficient in the area where you're expending the most to try to mitigate that expense. So, I mean, that's a solid information right there. So I definitely appreciate that. On the topic, though, Dr. Nakumbe, when I talked about linked fate, and when I reached out to you, because when I look at the whole gender dynamic space, the gender war, the gender conversation, what I see, what I hear, and even what I feel, just being honest, even what I feel, if I hear too many women talking bad about men, I get a feeling. Sometimes it's defensiveness. Sometimes it's like, that like, nah, y'all don't even know what y'all talking about. Sometimes I want to lash back out. So I know also that women, and I've observed it, even if nobody admits to it, I've observed men and women, other people other than myself do this. If somebody's talking about black women, well, black women will start to feel away, and you'll see the language or tone shifts. You'll see body posture if they're on a visible panel. Same thing with men. If some people start talking about men, if they say black men, if they're talking about white men, if they're talking about Democrats, whatever group you identify with, even if they're not talking about you, we share a sense of like linked fate, where if you're talking about them, you're talking about me too. So I kind of wanted to introduce that as an idea and a concept. Is that terminology, or is there different terminology that comes up in your expertise and your experience? And how does that shape our worldview? How does that shape our experience? That feeling like I'm them, they are me.
In the work that I do, I'm able to see exactly what you just said. But I contribute that to the work. Now I've had mentors in my life and people who fought for me and put their boot where it needed to go so I can keep going. They also helped me to create that vision. When I went to the Philippines for the first time, like, wow, this is what I see on TV and blah, blah, blah. Making a long story short, my way back, when you're new there, you just have on your forehead, like I kept rubbing the check, but it said sucker, foreigner, pull a scam on me. It just said it all up there. I kept checking, but it was there. But I got a driver, and I said, hey, can I just pay you, keep me to be my driver for the week, and I'll just pay you? And he said, yes.
and he took me everywhere. Blah blah blah. Make a long story short, saved me a ton of money in scams and all that. So I tipped on my way out $50,
Oh yeah.
50 USD. But $20 here is 800 there, 800 pesos.
Ooh.
So that $50, he cried. Oh, I'm like, dude, you know how much money, heartache, and hassle and trouble you saved me? He said, no, before you go, because he even brought me to the airport 4 hours early. Internationally, you want to get there 3, but he said no, because they'll see that you still didn't get it all off of you. They'll see it up there, and they'll say, you need all the baggage and all your, they'll find a way. So he said, please, you have time, come with me. We went and got this trough. We got this pot of rice, and he said, oh, poor people. I was telling all my little stories about poor people. He's like, let's go. Took me to what they call the squatters. And I had seen poor now for the first time, like poor. I'm from Harlem, New York. This was nothing. Some ghetto areas in different towns, Dallas and Minnesota. I could see the lights in the kids, and I could feel myself cringing and all these different things. And I cried on the way home. And I was like, dang, I can't believe how much I take for granted and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, with that being said, I realized how much we are all alike and how much we work so hard to be different and then either shame other people, but we do it ourselves, or we're the same. So, we have our views and perceptions and politics and things we value and don't value, and I get it. But when it comes down to it at the end of the day, and I think it's because of my work and because of a few life experiences, the reason I'm able to stay objective or to just kind of subjective, objective, and just kind of look at things is because I actually see both sides. I see the humanistic side in both things. So that's my view on it. And a few people get that, and others are so locked in, like their vision is only for what they see and who they are, or what they want to be, or who they want to be.
No, we definitely do get locked in very easily. I try to fight that. I know. I thought I was. I promise you. I thought I was involved. I thought I was done. I was like, I've my ego. It's a wrap. Took care of my ego. I'm good. And I listened to a lot of people who talked about like a gendered ego, but I promise you, it only took about a month more of listening to the same stuff, and I'm like, I felt right back into the trap. It was like I thought I was done. I thought that as soon as I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. But it was a trip how easily I was able to fall right back into the same thought patterns that I thought I had overcome by like years of work, and I thought I was over it. But it only takes like a 30 days of like feeding yourself the same stuff. And stuff it took me years to overcome. I was falling right back. I was like, it takes like what decades to build a city, but a week to destroy it. One of those type of things. I was like, wow. Right. But honest to goodness, and I know people be in their feelings too much, Quanta, but I promise you, I was like rage filled a little bit. So it's just interesting though. I feel like the gender war, a lot of us are just not mentally and emotionally prepared to take in these type of conversations as consistently and persistently as we do. But what are your thoughts on the rate of consumption that we currently have in these type of conversations?
Yeah. Well, all right. So, a few things, but I don't want to make this into a dissertation because this is a sensitive area and one that's actually near and dear to me, and I deal with this a lot. A couple of realities. And I normally draw out a tree. So if you picture a tree, people deal with situations, and they can go to therapy and they can do a bunch of stuff, but they stay up in the branches. That's what they are. They're up in the branches. And what I mean by that is when they go to therapy or different places, and I'll draw this real quick, but up here excuse my drawing, but these are all the branches, and people stay up there. This week, how did that make you feel? And did you do the exercise that I told you to do last week? And this time I got mad. And so I got mad, but that's the situation. And then I felt a little better, so I'm no longer mad. So that's gone. So it looks like everything's gone, but realistically, no, the tree is still there. When people don't get enough down to the roots, and the roots is where it's at. Oops, the roots. So, until you do some deep shadow work or some deep root work, it's there. And check this out. Even if you resolve
You cannot, if you have trauma, you cannot cure trauma. Trauma is not curable. It's like herpes. It stays forever in your system. Herpes stays, and I'm not, I'm not trying to. This is not for shock value. This is reality. It stays in the tailbone. There's a sac of fluids in the tailbone where the herpes. That's the home base. And when you have a reaction, it goes to where you first got it. So oral or genital herpes. That's where you get an outbreak. When it goes back to the main base in the nerve system. Trauma stays in the central nervous system in your brain, and it's an injury, and it impacts your functioning, your reasoning, and your emotions. So you can actually be in a good mood and still have a traumatic episode. So it's not always only when that's bad, only when, and so even though people worked very hard on these areas and they created a treatment plan, they worked very hard, not understanding that whatever it is tied like a web. A lot of couples that I work with, I'm just done with dating. I'm just done. Well, what was the reason you were dating other than the natural, be together and blah, blah, blah? What was the reason? I got tired of being alone. And now you're going to do what? I'm done. Uh-huh. How long is that going to last of being alone? And some people say, well, until the right person comes. Where's the right person, and who's the right person that you created in the computer? So my belief is that the root is tied into a fear. And the fear is tied into something else. And even though I hear what I hear, if it doesn't satisfy the root, then I'm right back to my, like kids, and I believe we may even go into that area of conversation. But a lot of kids, I hear a lot of people in this gender war talk about coming for the kids. You're coming for the kids.
Yeah.
And I hear some parents say, well, let them come. Good luck. And there's some parents who say, well, let them come and make sure their bag is packed and they're ready to go. And don't bring them back, right? And so it just depends on the parents that says let them. And then you have the parents who say, my kids and my kids and my kids, like they own them like property.
Yep.
And that's cool too. But if you go that route of my, then the fear is you're going to lose something of yours. You're going to lose something of yours. So then I take it personal, like it's an attack on me and an attack on my kids and an attack on my future. For the parent who says, we're pretty confident because we teach starting at home, we teach our family values, and with the gender war and the argument being that I guess you can sprinkle dust some sexual stuff on somebody. You can sprinkle dust, and it gets on you, and then next thing you know, you change your sex or your gender, and it doesn't quite work that way. So there are some parents who are confident in knowing that's not how it works. Now, will my kids ever be impacted by what they see and want to come home with some ideas? Absolutely. They do it from commercials. They do it from this. But the teaching at home, the communication at home, the family values at home, no matter how close they are, we can't stop everything. But at the same time, as long as we do our part. So I forget the question after all that talking. And I said it was near and dear to my heart. But why do people keep going? Say it again, please. No, I apologize.
Now I can't. Now that was an off the cuff question, so I did not have it written down, so I'm not going to remember exactly what it was. But it was essentially
anyone in the chat remember the
comment? It was to the effect of why do we like? Cause I know I said myself, I keep getting wrapped up back in it. How come you started with the tree analogy, and that was because I thought like in my branches, I thought I was good. I thought I cleared the branches, but I haven't cleared the root issue that keeps triggering me when I hear the gender conversations. So it was about like how do we like the consumption, like the rate of consumption. So it doesn't even matter how often I consume it. If I haven't cleared the root issue, it can just be that one time I hear it again. Right. It might trigger up those same feelings of defensiveness. So,
a thought is, so what comes to mind when you that gender stuff? What comes to mind? What really grips you? What would you say grips you?
Oh, it's I'm gonna tell you. I would say that the biggest thing is the dehumanization and the arrogance. Like there's a dehumanization is paired with arrogance. So it's like I know you. Like, I know you. I've never met you, but I know you. Even though they're not talking about Rashawn, they're talking
Mm-hmm.
about men or black
Mm-hmm.
men or
Mm-hmm.
modern men or broke men, or they'll use some descriptor, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll feel hit. I'm the hit dog. And I'll feel like, first of all, the arrogance to think that you know me based upon stats or people that you've experienced, or a lot of times you can tell there's not even a lot of experience, but
Right.
they'll have the arrogance to think that they can speak for a large swath of people,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times they'll be wrong is what really gets me. And
Mm-hmm.
then the second part, I can't even remember what I just said a second ago, but the arrogance is my main thing, and it's like
Yep.
the dehumanization, because
Right. Right.
it takes away, and it's so weird because I feel how much this parallels the feminist ideology. Like, I feel how much it takes away my agency. It takes
Mm-hmm.
away my ability to be a person and
Mm-hmm.
fool and show up in the world, because you've already
Mm-hmm.
told me. You've already told me what I am and what I can be and what I can't. I'm not capable
Right.
of. So
Right.
in a weird way, that's what how I end up feeling. I take
Yep.
away those feelings, no matter how much I think. Like, I've set up boundaries, and I can listen
Right.
for
Right.
information and not
Mm-hmm.
confirmation. I've got all these tools, but I still,
Mm-hmm.
after listening to it and I'll be like, you're
Yeah.
wrong. But I feel a way about it. I could just let you be wrong and tune out, but like a lot of other people, I'll be just tuned in and I'm listening
Yeah.
to them. And the more wrong they are, the more I'm drawn to listen. And I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
need to correct them. Like, where does, and again, I know this isn't just me that does it, because I've watched other people do it.
Right.
Why do
Right.
we get sucked in that way?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, and I'll put it on me. Um, the advocate in me is the one that shows up. So if I go on a date, my best to impress shows up. If I go to court, my internal lawyer shows up. When I'm with the boss, my advocate, like my scaredy cat, did I do something wrong? Shows up, right? And I'm not talking about multiple personalities. I'm not talking about that. But those sensories that we have, or I'm gonna call them assignments. So this particular issue I deal with, but whoever is assigned to deal with this issue, they're the ones resolving things. But when I hear
Mm-hmm.
of something where someone is cutting someone down or putting someone down, or like, you don't even know those people, and are you saying that about me? Well, if I go down to the root, I think about all the times where I felt like I didn't have a voice and I didn't have a choice. And no matter what the topic is, that's the root. So if you think of a stem, we're talking about Marvel comics and stuff, but you know how they have those timelines. So if you think of a stem and it has these timelines, so one of these off branches happens to be about gender. One of these off branches happen to be about skin color. One of these, but at the long stem of it is not having a voice and not having choice. And that could have come as early as 5 years old. Family got a new job. We lived in California, but we're moving to North Carolina. I have to say goodbye, no choice, and no voice. I mean, there might be some, well, what are you thinking? You like the new house? There might be some of that, but I don't have a choice
Yeah.
and I don't have a voice. I have to say goodbye to friends, which is a form of abandonment.
Yeah.
And pending the connection to even a school, a certain neighborhood cat, I might even feel betrayal. I can no
Yeah.
longer feed that cat. It wasn't my cat, but it was the neighborhood cat. And but now I feel a sense of betrayal. That's at the root. Those are the sandbags, the anchor. So as I'm growing, anytime I'm dealing with something where I finally have a voice, I finally have choice. So I'll take off and then I'll go to, you have to relax and that's not your mission. And okay, you're right. Something that seems like a cat that's being betrayed, starting to bubble up. Here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden now it feels like an attachment issue, a disconnect, a disrespect. Stuff start to bubble up again. So I think I say that we all have this anchor of something. And that's what sparks off. So the people who refuse to get back in a relationship because they're scared,
Yeah.
well, they're no longer with that person who scared them. So what are they scared about? Just don't pick the same person. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. When we're listening to people, I tell you, there's a couple of shows that I have to sit and I watch some of my own shows and I notice like, man, I'm starting to do this a lot. I feel like I'm getting old. Old people, how they, so I look at, but I also notice the times when my little devil, because I'm an underdog for women who've been abused. I'm
And I listen to some folks yelling at people, and I'm like, I've been in certain networks where I listen to how women are stupid and you guys are dumb. And I'm like, and so, but what's at the root of that? People's like, oh, ignore them. They're just for entertainment. Ignore them. They're just for likes. It's just, but at the root, I'm being triggered. So I think for any of us, if you think about what's triggering you and acknowledge that, process that, like not, you don't have to go somewhere, but process that in your own head. Like, okay, what's happening right now? And then being aware in advance. I'm going to, real quick, I go to court to do testimony. So as my forensic side of my work, and when they call me in as an expert witness, well, since I'm not on trial, they have to figure out a way to discredit me or do something, right? I know that going into court. If any of you watched the Floyd, it wasn't him, the officer, Chauvin, if any of you watched his trial for the George Floyd case,
A couple years back,
the guy who was yelling or saying, "Get off of him," does martial arts and stuff, right? And he could have, but if you watch his interview, if you watch when he was on the stand, he wanted to make sure there was no way you're going to get him. Or his presentation was about nope and nope and what? Nope, no, don't try and trick me. Don't try and play my words. But to a jury, they could just look defensive and horrible.
mm-hmm.
And in their mind, they're, aha, you tried to get me.
Yeah.
And I used to be like that. Ha and not realizing, oh man, my, you were just being triggered and thinking you were really doing something.
Yep.
But then if you watch the doctor on there, the one, the lung specialist, I don't remember their name, but the lung specialist, the one from Ireland or whatever, just smooth as butter and allowed the space to be got, so to speak. Oh, my mistake. That's not, no, allowed it to flow and not worried about being got. And to me, I invite that attitude to all of us. Where are we going? We know we're going to this show. We know we're going to this network. We know we're going to listen to so-and-so. We know, oh, so-and-so's on the panel tonight, or so-and-so's coming over for dinner. So knowing who and what space we're going to be in, what part of us is triggered or can be triggered, and then be ready to manage that. That self-awareness is key.
Yeah. That definitely has been beneficial to me. So I'm glad you actually said that, and I think that helps a lot of us. If we could just sit back, like I said, like the defensive posturing, like trying to, because we feel like these logic traps coming when people are asking us questions. Well, are you married or that? So there'll be like these leading questions that they're trying to take somewhere, and like you said, you get defensive, so you're trying to do like jujitsu and judo. Yeah. But it makes you look like, okay, well, you're combative, you're in combat because you're defensively posturing. So not even engaging, like you said, like just letting it flow, just engaging in good faith. It seems to help me quite a bit. But I just want to acknowledge a few people who came in: Black Hearted with New Growth, Old Soul, Harris Tribe Media Group, aka Mrs. She Said in the building. Got Candid Ann in the building. What's up, Candid Ann? I'm going to read this real quick. My main issue with the gender conversation is that too many people believe everyone should choose the same path they have chosen and judge you if you choose something different without listening. That's definitely true.
Agreed. Now, I've fallen into that as well. I know you're doing shout-outs. Go ahead and finish your shout-outs.
Oh, no, I believe that was the last one. If I missed somebody, forgive me. I believe I got everybody. But no, I definitely think what you said. But what you were going to say?
So we go into these conversations locked, and are we really open for listening? Open, and open doesn't mean just pausing to be quiet to hear and then you take your turn. Open to what's going on for the other people, no matter what I believe. Even in my work, I'm the professional and I have the license. What does that mean? I took some classes and read some books and passed some tests or did whatever. But am I the authority on your life? Am I the authority in what's going on in your business? So really it's about hearing what you're offering. And I can have pushback, but when it becomes that I have to attack you, I feel like I have to reduce you so that my opinion or my my value is higher. So if my value system hasn't changed, I mean, I can go to a billion conversations, but if my value system hasn't changed, then it's really just I'm just looking to I'm just listening to hear where you're wrong or find a way to
Mm-hmm.
discredit you. And if not you, then I lump you into a category or into a group that I can't. So I'll shame this group. And since I really can't get you, I'll lump you in there. So now the whole batter of you is just horrible. And so I think either people shut down, which is in my favor. If I'm using the wear down method, attack, yell, blah 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 blah, and use the wear down method and you shut down, I win. If you just say forget it and leave, I win. And I get to gaslight and play like, oh, did they leave the car? Oh no, just when I wanted to have a conversation. I just wanted to have a conversation. What
Y'all
happened?
seen that?
Right? And so
I've seen it.
gaslight you and make it seem like you're the idiot.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate also what you said a little bit before that too, because like the root of it, it did. Because I remember the first time I saw you do the tree thing, the person you were speaking to actually had something happen to them when they were 8 years old. Excuse me, and it was with their mother. And I remember you writing down, 8 mom at the root. And so when you
Yeah.
talked about that, the choice and voice, it then took me back to my childhood. So again, that same dynamic, even though it's a gender conversation and it's about something totally unrelated, those same feelings of voice and choice being taken, that connected when you said that. So thank you
Yes.
back. I mean, that was a question to go, but thank you for saying that because it did.
You bet. And depending what it is, it may be a lifetime. I give you an example. I was a much heavier guy. I've been up to 350. And during that, but before then, when my mom was giving me the business, I was a skinny toothpick kid. I was one of those kids, looked like you wanted to send me 79 cents a day, just to kind of keep me going. Yeah. So when I actually put on weight at first, I was proud because I want to be a larger person because I won't be bullied anymore. But slowly but surely, I became the bully. So you go from the image of this skinny kid that's being my perception of abused. So that's locked in my brain. And so any small frame person, any blah, 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 I'm already defensive about, don't hurt them. They're fragile. That's the person. But anything fragile. So if I go to, and you say, oh, you white, come on. So that's fragile. I'm triggered not by the device, the concept of fragile. Be careful. Or if I'm playing with someone and they're just playing with people yank your head like, come here. And it's like, hey, my neck is fragile. So the root of it is being fragile, even though it comes from me being a skinny, fragile kid. Fragile is the anchor. So then I became a larger person, but then I became more bullyish. And so then what is that anchor? I'm mindful, I'm very sensitive when people attempt to be a bully. Well, when do we feel bullied? By making them big purchase. It's the last one. If you don't get it today, it's a 2024 model and it's only August of 23. What do you mean if I don't get it today? Make some more. So I feel played, so anytime I feel played on anything, a video game, bam, break $2,000 keyboard, boom, because I feel played. Or someone is talking to me and I'm listening, but I'm because of the idea of being played. But it's not just that one topic, is across the spectrum of played, fragile, bully, da 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 da. Hope that makes sense.
That goes back. Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. It goes back to what you said earlier about things that are relational. Like there's a relationship to that feeling of being played, a relationship to that feeling of being bullied, in any way that makes you feel that way. Because that makes perfect sense. Because there's so many situations where we don't know why we got triggered. I don't even know why that made me so mad. I've heard that so many times in my life from other people. I don't even know why I got so angry about that. But it connected to a feeling. But maybe the dynamics were set up where you couldn't see the dynamic. It was maybe like, I know I've listened to somebody. I know Bree introduced me to somebody, and they talked about there's a social layer and a psychological layer. So sometimes the social layer of something, like how we interact with each other in society, masks the psychological impact and how it. So I like that because things are relational on a sometimes a hidden layer, like you said, even with like a video game, because there are a lot of dynamics in video games that are unfair, where they'll tilt the balance of favor to keep it competitive, but they're legitimately punishing you for nothing but succeeding, and they'll make you less effective. So you'll feel played, you'll feel cheated. You know what I'm saying? So so I mean that makes perfect sense.
And that comes out in so many different forms. But can you imagine if I play 4 hours of video games, and then if I go to work and there's some BS going on at work, and I get in trouble, but I feel it's
Yep.
unfair. On my way to work, I had to deal with traffic that, like, what in the world is going on? This is normally free. Like, what in the? And then I'm
Yep.
looking, and then I see what the thing was going on. Now I'm slowing down. Check this out. I want people to move. Move. Let's go. Let's go. And then I finally get up to what's going on, and
Slow down. Yep.
right.
Yep.
1 minute ago, I was like, beep, beep, what the? No, mind your business. So,
Yep.
so
Yep.
the route to work was unfair. When I get to work and deal with all that BS, that's unfair. Like, what? Why are people? But I didn't realize the stimuli, the stimulation, never really got a chance to rest. Yesterday or last night, when I finally got to bed, it was coming up a 4 hour gaming where I felt like they respawned me at the wrong time, blah, blah, blah. So that was 4 hours of stimulation of unfair. I got about 4 hours of sleep. But before I can reboot anything, I'm already now in traffic. This is unfair. So the stimuli of unfair is still going. Then I get to work in the CBS. We need to talk to you and da da da. We don't. What? Whoa! What? Can I even have a voice or choice? Well, we don't want to. And so more stimuli. Now I'm at about 8 hours of unfairness going on in my head. And then someone says, "Just let it go. Just don't take it so personal."
Yeah.
Ah!
Which is actually more unfair. It's unfair to ask me to not
that
address
you-
it.
that I have to now. Not, yes.
So now,
right.
and that's the person you end up snapping on, because that was the last. That's the last,
Right.
and they
I
don't
didn't
understand.
have that at work.
Yeah, didn't act like that anywhere else. But that last person that said that last unfair thing is the one that catches all the hell. And it's like they don't understand where it all came from. But like you said, you've been dealing with that same dynamic in your mind and emotionally for 8 hours. Like, so that's difficult.
Absolutely.
Man, that's tough. I haven't really seen it like that, but I like the way you put that, because I feel like that's what happens a lot of times when we don't understand it. We're dealing with the same dynamic in our lives in different faces, in different places, but we don't know we don't see the same dynamic. Bringing that back to why so many people fail relationships. I know a lot of people, like, we repeat the same cycle in our relationships. We have the same failure dynamic. Like, people that look for unavailable partners tend to find more and more unavailable partners. So we consistently, like, live out the dynamics across the spectrum of our lives that trigger us. It's weird how you said that, because every domain, you said playing the game, went to work, traffic, and then even that last person, like, nah, just let it go. It's weird how that dynamic creeps up, but that's the trigger for that person in that moment. So that's funny, because
It also
there's no way
what
to
talking
escape
about.
it.
No way to escape it, and it also talks
Man.
about the double sided to it, the double sidedness to it, where when I itched about the traffic, but then I slowed down. So I'm itching about when others do it, but not even realizing I'm doing it. And then if someone toots their horn, I either sorry in the rear view, sorry, or screw you. Wait, you screw. So the job. No, I did. And then I'm telling someone else, well, no, I don't want to discuss it. You don't have. So we end up repeating some of those same behaviors, which keeps us active in that same type of engagement, or what I call reinforcement. So I'm not going to drink alcohol anymore, but I still go to the bar. I go to the restaurant side and I drink water, but I'm still in the same environment. The same bells and whistles, my ear, the sound is still being triggered. The smells are still being triggered. What I see is still being triggered. I'm still reinforcing, even though I'm not physically consuming, I'm still reinforcing everything other than the drink.
Yeah, man, that's something. Ooh, that's a hard one to contend with. A lot of us have a hard time. One of our hardest times is trying to adjust our environment, because like to move, from where you are situated right now, that might be easy, but to move the situation of your entire life, the people you're around, the circumstances, the environments, like you said, the stimuli. If you're poor, you may not be able to move away from like liquor stores if that's your thing, or gangs, or you. So it's really difficult. But I do get it that's one of the battles a lot of us have to face. But I do want to ask you this question. As far as someone who also spends time around a lot of these type of like gendered conversations, you hear a lot, you've seen a lot, you've participated in a lot of it. What do you think the benefits and drawbacks of these type of conversations are? We've already had a few people talk about why they don't like these conversations, but what do you think the benefits, like the pros and cons? What have you seen and observed?
Unfortunately, there are more cons than pros when it comes to this particular subject, in my opinion. One of the pros, let's get the pros out the way. People are having the conversation. They're actually willing to to make an attempt to have the conversation. I think there are people who create spaces for the conversation. That's the intent. I'm sure there are a few more positives.
But hard to see. They're hard to see.
Yeah. The unfortunates. The unfortunates. Well, if I'm creating the space, but I'm the venue holder, I'm the one that creates the space. Is the space tailored for me or tailored for those I'm inviting? In most cases, I create the space so I'm comfortable. Now, I'll give you an example. You invited, and we've had exchange and communication. I believe you've done as much as you can to offer any support, so I feel comfortable coming on. And some people start that way, but then they, when I say flip the script, it's like in some relationships, it starts out great and feeling wonderful, and then overnight someone changed the job description and didn't announce it to the other person. So now
That's
all
a
of a
good
sudden
point.
you have a different person. And I think sometimes the coordinator, hey, we want you to come over and be on the channel. We want, yay, whoop-de-woo. And then when you get there, the coordinator hands it over to the producer. And the producer has a different agenda.
Wow.
Understand, the producer. And then the director says, well, thank you both. Now let me do my work. So, and that's just an analogy, but I think the damage that does, the risk that it does, is because if you get people who don't know what they're talking about, and if you look at this system via the internet, worldwide, not local, town wide, not citywide, not statewide, not nationwide, worldwide digital thumbprint or audio or visual thumbprint. The damage that can be done if I'm putting out misinformation, or if I'm so passionate about something and and I can't force anyone, so I can't make anyone feel anything. That's up to them. But if I have the power of influence and motivation, in the movie, or not the movie, do you remember 911, the September 11th, the Twin
Yes.
Towers?
Yes.
So I'm from New York, but I was in Minnesota at the time that happened. I was taking it personal. You knocked down my buildings.
Mm.
And all this stuff went on and on about the Muslims did it, the Muslims and Muslims and da-da-da-da. And then the movie came out, I think it was called 9/11 or something like that. It was a movie. And in that movie theater, I remember when I could see the light stuff, there were some people who looked like a Muslim,
Guilty.
right? I'm ready to.
Man.
Now, if you get into conspiracies and all that, then that starts to change my views and stuff. And I thought about how many times I really wanted to hurt someone,
Mm-hmm.
and all I could do was thank the heavens that I did not, based on this emotion, based on this belief, based on this push, that they were the enemy. And then even if they were the enemy, after further research, or as the SEDS will say, Mr. He said will say, do the due diligence to do your journalistic research and stuff. After doing my research and realizing even if they were at fault, how did they get in that position? What was the switch and bait and switch? And what was the propaganda? What was the so the damage that can be done when you get people hyped up and it's something that's not accurate. I'll give you an example, and this is one that in more smaller, intimate circles, I've been trying to do it more. I don't do it in the larger groups because it, again, is like sprinkling something out there in the large groups. It doesn't work. And that's this. If you ever hear someone say, uh, especially trans or gay or lesbian or bisexual identity or queer identity, say, "Oh, you just put my life at risk." You won't believe the amount of people, and I myself was part of that would say, having the conversation is putting your life at risk. Just saying how do you see? Did I touch you? Did I put in any weapons in my hand? How did I put your life at risk? How did I put your life at risk? In that theater, if I had not used just a little bit more common sense, I was ready to defend the American dream in the Twin Towers and take people out, whatever that looked like. Just throw some popcorn at them and run, whatever it looked like. I was ready to
Yeah.
do it. So when I'm announcing to you, if I said, "Sean, this is stupid. They are, and this fool is, and look at them and what they are, and blah 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 blah," and
That's fair.
do you have the facts? I just want to know the facts, not some Google thing. Do you have the facts? Have you been there? Did you experience it? Did you see it? I mean, other than like seeing my immediate, I mean, like how, what backs it up? And wait a second, Pookie, not Pookie, Muhammad wasn't able to land an airplane according to the, and I'm not getting to the conspiracy part, but when I use my common sense, there's a trainer that says he couldn't land a little Cessna. I'm really hooked into the idea that he crashed this thing into the building. Why not just sit back and wait to see how kind of what comes out to be true? If I lock onto this idea or lock onto that idea and I'm ready to hurt people in response, only to find out it may not have been true, and the people pushing that agenda or people pushing that idea, they're not the ones who are actually struggling. I said this about 2 weeks ago. If you think back into the 60s, when civil rights and the kids, the blacks can finally get into the schools, there were only a couple of students who really thought about going to an all-white school, or a couple of families that really wanted to push it. Others were like, "I'm cool. I'll go to school with Shaniqua and Pookie and I'm straight." But once it was televised, once the abuse was televised, and others got to see the abuse, it was the others that put money into it. There was others that put support into it. There was others that pushed for the law. And so when they finally got to go to school, now you have to think, here's this black girl walking down the street that already was being spit on and chased and called names, even when she wasn't trying to get into the school. Now the issue and the agenda is pushed about let her go to school. Her voice, this is one person trying to get into the school. Her voice is minimal. Yes. Oh, yes, I do want to go to the school. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. I want to be acknowledged. I want to be validated. I'm somebody too. But even if she screamed that, her one voice would only scream so loudly. But then you take all the advocates. Sorry, I keep hitting my mic, which I hope it doesn't. Your listeners hope that.
No.
You take all the advocates, and so it sounds like a million voices.
Yep.
And now when I see that one black girl, because of all the hoopla I heard from all these voices, not the advocates, the people who think that there's this, a billion people became trans, there's a billion people became gay, they're taking over the world. It was the one, and I'm not comparing it like a black girl and someone going through transition. I mean, I'm just saying the idea of taking a small number of people, and the numbers would be larger if the people felt heard or acknowledged and treated with respect. But since I'm not part of that welcoming committee, then I'm actually hush hush. And now on top of that, you want to kill me double because the advocates are out there. So in short, what I'm saying, the danger in not understanding what you say and what you put out there and how you put it out there, the actual receivers, what are they going to receive? And I think that's a very, very dangerous thing that's going on with these gender wars, because the actual people who want to be heard and seen and validated and all that, they're staying safe. Yeah. So even Conscious TV, one time I heard them talking about, or them say, "Oh, I got to get my, we're gonna load up." they were talking about they're gonna get the double guns and double barrels and all that. And I'm like, oh wow. So the first thing we do is go to violence. The first thing we do, catch this, Rashawn. The first thing we do is go to violence. But who's really playing first? Who's really first? Because over here was someone saying, if I ever catch some fruit, if I ever catch some sweet looking, if I ever catch someone who doesn't do what I say, I'm going to hurt them. So was this really first? And then over here we say, well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to arm up because it's self-defense. It's self-defense. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's really engaging in self-defense? I mean, if you're the majority,
Yep.
right? If you're the automatic, the go-to, the pure, the innocent, the normal, if you're over here, then who's really at risk for being hurt? Who's really the threat? So I'm going to defend. Oh, you're going to defend, and we're going to defend, and we're stop.
That's
People are
good.
going to get hurt unnecessarily so. And then while we're in this cage together, rah, outside the cage is there you go, work it, take each other out. So that was long-winded, and I apologize, but that's
No, you don't have to apologize. I want to get your insights because you said several important things in that. One, because I was actually going to argue you down about that whole you're putting my life in danger. I was going to argue against that, but the point you made was so I was like, oh God, I never even considered that. Because it's true. Now, true. Having a conversation, one, this is a public platform. So if you come on a public platform, I am not directly putting your life in any danger. You chose to be on a public platform. You choose to participate in the conversations. So that's where that's what my argument was on the direct action, like you said. I'm not attacking you, but indirectly, like you said, indirectly from majority to minority, we rally dogs. We call the dogs of war. So we foment. And like you said, if you have a platform, you have influence. People follow the leader. So if they see you, they develop these parasocial relationships. They start to feel a bond with you, a kinship, a brotherhood across these virtual airwaves. They'll start to back. I've seen people back people up on some stupidity. It's true in real life, so it comes online too. People will follow somebody that they like over somebody who's right. They'll follow politically or expediently. I think what was that quote by Dr. King? People will choose expedience or convenience or politic before they choose the right thing. I can't remember the exact quote, but y'all can look that up. But I that's a very important that we do put, even with the gender war. Forget like trans and gay. The gender war, we're doing the same thing because we are calling people to attack. So they get the feelings. Like they come away from the conversations with the feelings of antagonism. I've been antagonized, or we're jumping on these other people. Like either we're clowning them, bashing them. That's rehearsing. That's reinforcement every time we participate in it. So that's it actually changed my mind on what you said. And they're like, oh, life in danger. I'm like, doctor, come on.
Right. But yeah. I mean, because even I've been a public speaker for decades, and I'm not to attempt to name drop, but it was significant. So I worked for Nancy Reagan, the former Mrs.
First Lady.
Right? Even First Lady. Thank you. But it was part of a grant to just say no to drugs, and then the Surgeon General, Dr. Seaver Coop. So that's who I really worked for.
Yeah.
They came to Minnesota. They heard about me. I was doing some rap, and I used to rap back in the day, and then I was encouraged to make some positive rap. So I did positive rap, and they got some attention. So they said, wow, Youth Educator of the Year. Woo! Then they said, well, will you go around to the high schools? So I went around to the high schools talking about say no to sex and say no to drugs. And if you can't abstain, then use a condom. I had a little rap about it. I used to roll the condom down my hand and say, if anyone's this large, maybe they don't. Anyway, so I used to do all that. And then, but I went to 110 schools that year at $1,000 a pop based on the grant. I was top shit, right? Yeah, in my mind. When the grant was over 2 years later, and then I went right back to those schools saying, hey, I'm here. I want to speak. And where's this? Write the check to? And they were like, no. And I wrote to all 110 schools, and they were no. I said, maybe. Why didn't I? I don't want to. I lowered the price to $500. Not a school replied. Then the news had something about our community. So the people who are in the community who have talents, they're failing our schools. Yeah. Bullshit. I've been trying to get into schools, da da da, and I didn't put two and two together. I got paid out of a grant, not from the
Hmm.
school. And then
Yeah.
Mr. Egotistical said, "Do you know who I am?" And I'm like, I don't give a damn. And then I finally started getting into schools for like $50 stipend. Okay, cool. But I went through so much red tape. I'm like, I just went, oh, I was cleared through a government grant that did all their kind of clearance, but directly I
Hmm.
haven't done anything. Now, how that relates. So when I now hear about a person's at the school in a clown outfit or something like that, I'm like, oh, cool. You guys had a clown at the school doing balloons and magic. Cool. What red tape do they have to go through? Just for entertainment. Then when I
Hmm.
hit, so I'm already at a certain level just about fun balloons and makeup and but I want to demonize it. Some people are scared of clowns. I saw the movie It. Some people are scared of clowns, right? So then I'm already at this level. Now add on top of that, they said, well, some of the cross dressers and people who are identified as this and identify as that, they came into the school, and some of the drag queens, and now I take it up a notch because I had to go through all this red tape just to do a healthy presentation, like something positive. Then a
Hmm.
clown, like a school clown, a clown got to come, a clown just for entertainment and blow balloons. And now what? And how did they get in? And they didn't need parents' permission. So my issue is not directly with a clown,
Hmm.
entertainer, storyteller, balloons and magic. My anger up here is not directly with someone who I can say, oh, you dressed like a woman and you went into the school and you got in and blah 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 blah. It's not directly with them. I'm more upset about the process and how did they get in.
Yeah.
I felt cheated and robbed, and when what I wanted to offer had substance and da, da, da. Relax. First of all, when you would do, that's another thing. I look at time. We should become more strict about who's coming into the schools. So if this happened to me 25 years ago, I had to go through all this red tape, and now you can just get
Hmm.
a. So I was like, hmm. But then I also looked at the decline of how many parents are involved in the meetings.
True.
I looked at how many people are actually helping to make decisions and how that's declining, and how the schools have just become our daycares, and how the schools have just become our, there you go, you take care of them and do what you want. I had to read reports about how many parents actually said, I don't know, they went, took off to school. It was your responsibility. What do you mean? What do you mean they did? What do you mean? It was your responsibility. I don't care what you do up there. So I give all this energy about, oh, how'd you let this person come into the school? How did you, why? You're damaging my family and the values. Well, I haven't been to the school to talk about, I haven't participated in any of those meetings. I ignored the letters that said, hey, please come. I didn't participate in the voting. I didn't participate in my own conversations in my home with my kids. Hey, no matter what comes to the school, this is what our family values about. And we want to know what happened at school, not just if a person came in a thong. I want to hear about your regular school day. All of a sudden, I'm in shock and awe when I hear, oh, the kids in the school, and I want to go fight, fight, fight. Pause. The damage that I'm doing, getting other people worked up about what the school is doing and getting people worked up can cause damage, can put people at harm. So even though I can't determine how you or what you're going to do with what I said, at the same time, I have to be responsible for what I'm saying, as far as like if I'm motivating or encouraging you, inviting you to
Hmm.
threats that are not as accurate. Are they in the schools? The entertainers and dancers and people wearing the makeup saying, yes, just so you know, I have this makeup on and I am a man or I am a woman and stuff like that. But did they say you have to be one? Did they say you have to change? No, what they said, from my understanding, is this is who I am, and you may not be learning this at home. And especially if no one like me is in your home, where will you learn it from? So I
Yeah.
get that piece of it. Now, do parents have a right and all that? That's another whole conversation. But my point is how I attack about my feelings of they didn't let me in the schools. They didn't let me in the schools. That was about me That was about me. Most of these problems, 99.9999% of them, are about the I. Look at the I first. What's
Yeah.
triggering me in this process? Good things or bad? What is it about for me? And I have to be mindful of how I put that out there, especially if I know I'm saying it to the right people who would get charged up and cause harm.
Yeah. Nah, that's solid. Again, like I said, I was ready to push back at first, but you made some good points. And it's like you said, it's the feelings of, I would say, inadequacy around access and influence. Access and influence will probably drive that. In this the gender space, the gender space, the conversations about relationships, and I know you had a great deal of experience and expertise around relationship dynamics. How do you believe, like, all these conversations that we have about marriage, family, submission, leadership, how much does all this stuff mirror, or is it very foreign to actual lived relationship and issues that people are bringing to your practice and things like that? How
Yeah.
how far away? You know what? One thing I hear people say a lot of time, that's just online. I never hear about this stuff online. I'm like, people, I'll save my personal feelings about it. But how different or the same are the
Yeah.
conversations to what people are actually going through in real life?
Man, they keep me in business, man. They keep clients coming through, man. Because that stuff they say online, they keep my doors open. People get caught into these messages and beliefs. A woman is supposed to, she's trash, and make sure. And then the opposite of, well, the guy better, and he's the alpha and the lead and the lead and the don't and the don't. And I keep it going, and keep my, because here's the reality. Sometimes we say things that are sensational, but they're not.
Hmm.
We can't realistically do those things.
Okay.
You need to set boundaries. I'm sick of this shit. When you get home, you're probably going to default to what you normally do. So then you come to the shows and get motivated again. And here's my big thing: when I listen to certain women on the thing talk about, if you're sick and you're bleeding and you're not feeling well, it is your duty to find that extra gear to show love and to give love, and your body is the duty. And then in the good book it says the duty in the Bible, and do. I'm like, And then I
Oh
wonder, like,
boy.
how does that work? Because interesting enough, when the couples to come see me have an issue like that, I'm asking, what can the other partner do to support that partner? Now they may have that mindset, let me do, it doesn't matter what I'm going through, let me still take care of you. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's at the base. That's at their foundation. My duty, I'm not going to lapse on. My question is to you as partner, how much are you taking advantage of that? How much are you helping with that? And do you have to utilize that potential? Do you have to utilize that right now, or can you do something? Then they're the ones that are realistic about it. I know my role. I know my position. I know how to love and when to love and why I love. But for some reason that gets all lost in translation and the conversations about what you're supposed to do and better do and how it works and marriage. And the reason I think it keeps going on and on and on is because the larger arena, social media, they have a new story every day. So it's
Yeah,
not like we
buddy.
can have the conversation and pause like, woo, it's good, we're good. Oh, wait, just fresh off the prompter. Oh, woo! Did you hear about and her tail and seeing her dumb ass and his black ass, and it's like, wow. And so just when we got that resolved, we're good. All right. Anyone still talking about it? I just heard Mr. and Mrs. Cassette, and I don't mean to be so much on their tip, but I do listen to them a lot. They just finished talking about not being first always to report something just to get a like, or oh, fresh off we don't have the whole
Yeah.
story, but check this out. And now I'm going to add my personal thing. Oh, see, and that's what they get. And da 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 da. Not even. But now here's the catch. I have a show coming up this Thursday talking about delusion, delusion, because I can't even turn my head. Delusional. That person's delusional. And you got and delusional and delusional and delusional and delusional. It's like not even understanding that they are diagnosing people. That is a form of psychosis. not that many people are having psychosis. The the,
That's
the
true.
numbers of delusion, that they just delude. Stop. They
That's
might
my
be
favorite word.
optimistic, right? They might be foolish. They might be hopeful. Shit in one hand, hope in another, which feels more real. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, the delusion, the actual diagnosis, and narcissistic. That's a clinical term. Narcissistic.
Oh.
The person's narcissistic. 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 And the person saying it probably is also, you know, the clinical definition of narcissistic, or one version. And I know everything is not psychotherapy. So I want
Right.
to give credit to that. Not everything's about science and psychotherapy. So I want to be fair and transparent. From my lens, the clinical version is to love yourself 100 more times than anyone else was going to love you. And that comes from the critical point in your life where you didn't feel loved. So if you felt
Okay.
ignored, neglected, or abandoned, you get this schema in the back of your brain that says, uh oh, no one really cares about me. So I have to make it about me or else I won't be fed. I won't be paid attention to. I won't. So then unknowingly, the brain gets consumed with that. And now they're making
Mm.
everything about them. And the reason they're such an asshole about it, because if they don't, they will die.
Wow.
That's how critical it
Okay.
is in their brain. And they
Yeah.
don't even realize. And then the ones who adopt it, like, yeah, yeah, I know, call me narcissistic, I don't care. That's on the surface, because deep inside, it's pain to be that way. I have to be this way to be cared about. I have to be this way to be loved. I have to. That's another. I have to love myself 100 times extra just to be loved. And then I
Man.
see a commercial for Kay's Jewelers. I see the people at Valentine's Day. Everyone is loved but me. And now I'm doubling down. How was your day today, Rashawn? And you can't get two words out before I'm like, oh, yep, and then me and me and me and me and me.
Yeah.
So the point is, my show, this coming up about delusion, but it's been so oversaturated, like everyone's talked about it. So then it's like, on one end, people want to be first. And on the other end, it's like, are you too late? So
Yeah.
for Coach K and I, we look at, it's not about the timing of it, it's about the discussion. Are people ready for the discussion? Are people ready for the education? So it's really about the timing of what we put out there, the appropriateness of what we put out there. So I see the couples and marriage and all this and being alone. Now, to be fair, more and more people, and I say this about women, we don't have to pick who's the wrong one or who's the right one. I say we're both messed up, right? All
Hmm.
genders, all involved genders bring something to the table. But I say, well, if depending how far back you want to go, if you follow the Adam and Eve, or if you follow the fish that came out of the water, or the monkey, whichever one you want to follow. But at some point where it became that women will cook, clean, take care of the house, do this, do that, do this, do that, take care of you, be available to you, be available to you, and to you, make sure you're okay and you're okay and the kids are okay, they're okay and you're okay and this okay and that okay. When are they okay? And then when there's a little pushback, like, whew, I'm tired. Oh, you're tired. How dare you be tired? Oh,
Mm.
how dare. We have that arena that says, I want love, but check this out. I can do bad on my own.
Yep.
Why deal with all this mess? I can do bad on my own. Oh, you shouldn't be alone. You should never be alone. Then there's the married group that says there's no such thing as divorce. And then you have the other group that says there's a couple of clauses in there that says if you get abused or this, you can. And then there's another whole push about happiness. Happiness. I'm not happy. I'm out.
Yep.
Wow. So if you mix all the different reasons, there is no die down to the conversation. Relationship, we're saying the same things they were saying 30, 40 years ago. We just didn't have the technology. We didn't have the Facebook and all the TikTok. We didn't have that. But we were on MySpace and whatever else, and and using the Reader's Digest magazine, and there was
Yeah.
always something that provided some level of gossip to keep the conversation fresh and to keep it going. And then to talk about how relationships don't work and how they should work and do work and don't work and should work and do work and don't work and should work.
No, that's definitely a fair point. I like what you said about narcissism. You actually humanized the people that have narcissistic tendencies to
Mhm.
me, because as opposed to that like clinical, you made it human. Like there's something in their brain that is chasing normal, but normal to them is feeling loved, so they're always chasing they're always chasing the need to feel loved just to feel normal, which that's not typical behavior to always need that. So that imbalance felt very human the way you proposed it, but I proposed it. But I need help because you said delusional is a clinical term. And although I know there's a lot of words I use that are from the clinical space, like psychotic, I don't use that too often. But
Mm-hmm.
delusion is one I love. I love it. But I need another word, Doc. I need you to give me a better, I guess, common parlance. I need a word that does not is not a clinical, because I can't. I'd be such a hypocrite if I keep saying narcissistic abuser. Y'all keep using these clinical terms.
Yeah.
That's But if I keep using delusional, I'm just as bad as the person that keeps saying
Right. Right.
narcissistic. So
Right.
I need another word, because there are people who actually have a fiction that they've built in their
Yes.
head and are
Yes.
operating off of it, and will then ask you to participate in that fiction as well.
Yes.
But I just
Yes.
don't. I can't think of another word right. I could probably go to the
Yep.
thesaurus later, but I need
Yep.
another word.
Yeah. If you take away true psychosis, if you take away true psychosis, that person has a vision and a fantasy. That person is going off of a fantasy or vision. And usually hurt people have visions. So I don't know how much you get into dreams, but there if you've ever dreamed of being a superhero and you could fly to get away, and if you have that dream often and there's been any trauma in the life, then that dream is really about you wanting to fly away and be in a different situation. Some people who drive huge SUVs, they say, "Oh, I just want to be higher off the ground. I like the look. I like the look." But some people clinically, they really like it because in their vision, fantasy, hope, delusion, desire is that they'll never be in a situation that they can't get out of. They can just roll over. They feel they feel like in the driveway to get a burger or whatever. They just feel like if there's a car behind them, and there are people who get jacked in their driveways, right? So there's a legit fear for that. But there's some people who just can't traffic on the freeway and they just and they drive over the medium. So there are certain things that are connected to a certain vision. And when that's destroyed, when the reality is destroyed, we create this other vision and a fantasy. So you need to make six figures. I'm not going to be with anyone less than six figures. It's like, So yes, delusional fits, like you are not making sense. But I can even leave it at that without diagnosing. It doesn't make sense to me. If you go the Kevin Samuels route about, do you value, do you equal, you can go that route all the way to, would I just say, well, does it add up? Will you really be able to get that six-figure person? And I don't have to ask what do you bring into the relationship. All I have to do is say, well, what would that person want? What does that person want? Like, if they make six figures, how much time are they using to make those figures? Like, are they working 12, 16-hour shifts? I don't know how that works. 4 days a week, 3 days a week. If they're really rolling, they want to get it down to where they sleep and they wake up, ding, ching, ching, ching. That's how you really want to get it. But until you get to that percentage, though, until you get that bracket, is that realistic? So again, it could be delusional, as in it's not real, but it's not embedded in their brain. It's not locked into their brain where they was clinical. So right now I'm asking, is that realistic that you'll get that? And is that one of your fantasies? No, damn fantasy. If they want to be with me, they have to do, and if she wants to be with, so that's for your entertainment or for your safety. I have clients who they come in about the six figures. It has nothing to do with status. It has to do with, man, if something happened to us and he doesn't have the money, if something happens to us and we can't afford, so they can make two figures as long as the rent's paid and life insurance. Yeah, I don't give a damn how much. Whoa, you just said they have to make. I don't care what the number is, but I have to have, and we have to have, and we have to make sure. It's about safety. So their fear and paranoia into what they might lose definitely fits in that clinical delusion of the world is coming to an end if we don't have. But you start to scale that back. I scale it back and say, well, let's wait a second. It's not really clinical, but it does involve safety and anxiety. Like if I don't have, and so got it. So your vision is this. The way your home is set up, the way the family is set up, that's your vision. Your fantasy, if you can get it, is this. Your reality is that you're here. So you're trying to go from reality to match your fantasy and kind of capture your vision. Awesome. So when you talk like that about the six figures, I have to say that sounds like fantasy talk and it sounds unrealistic. And when they're like, I don't give a damn what it sounds like, I don't give, okay, cool. And I leave it at that because that's theirs to fight with. I don't have to say that they're delusional. Now, when it's causing harm, because that's the whole thing. Your paranoia, your thoughts, your psychosis is causing harm to self or others. That's when I say, well, wait a second. What's going on? Is it really rooted in anxiety? Is that your anxiety kicking in? No, I'm just trying to tell you. Oh, because it sounds really sensational. It sounds really sensational. I just don't understand why they have to make six figures and then what type of relationship are you expecting to have? Listen, I'm gonna be doing my thing and I'm gonna be so then you have this list of expectations, and then I get worried about the expectations. You know, expectations is the greatest way to failure. So or disappointment. Disappointment. So is your fantasy also mixed in with your worry about not wanting to be disappointed? Yeah, because I can't do another relationship. I just can't do. And shoot, that last one took 8 years of my life. So you created now a new vision about what the next 8 years should be like, so you don't lose 8 years. Damn right I did. And if they don't, oh, see, when you just talk about it and I didn't ask any questions, you almost sound like unbelievable. That's just no way in hell. You are delusional. So
Right.
Just before I go there with that maximum, and a lot of times in these spaces, we don't have time to break all that down, right? We don't have all that time to really process. But pending what it is, kind of in that same arena of, oh, that sounds fantasy like, sounds like a big vision you have, a big hope that you have, expectations. So you expect this to happen so you can get that. Yep. And what if it doesn't happen? Oh, it's going to. Okay. And you're comfortable staying single until it happens? Oh, I'm not going to be single long. Delusional, right? But, oh, okay. Sounds interesting. So if I were to offer you a word out of all that, you only wanted a couple words, I gave you a whole story. If you wanted a couple of words, I would say fantasy, visionary,
Okay.
unrealistic. Those
Okay.
would be mine that I would
Unrealistic.
throw in there. And if you use the word delusional, because it's kind of just it fits, like it fits language wise, it sounds like it fits. If you use delusional, then I would give my definition of it. You know, right now, Rashawn, I have to be honest. You sound real delusional. You like, what's wrong with you? You lost it. You lost it. I mean, let me explain because I don't want to diagnose you. The stuff you're saying sounds unrealistic based on the way things operate, the way things work. I just don't. And it's not about me, but I don't see how that's going to happen. So then the first thing I think is like, that's crazy. And then when I think of crazy, I think of delusional. So I'm not calling you delusional. I'm just saying your idea seems so unrealistic, so massive. And I'm just interested, and I hope that you can get it.
Yeah. No, that's solid. Unrealistic because I know for narcissistic, I've landed on selfish. That's where I landed on, or self-absorbed or selfish. I'm like, I know they don't mean narcissistic because there's just not that many psychologists roaming YouTube to diagnose all these people, and everybody they've dated and married
Right.
is a narcissist. But I like what you said. That brings up a conversation I was having with Inya earlier. We talked about the dynamic of freedom versus bondage, and I was kind of like postulating, I guess, a little bit that freedom that you can't have freedom without bondage. Like they're inextricably linked. Does our society create a dynamic where most of us are chasing a fantasy to create a sense of safety? Because as you were talking, and you were talking about the delusion and the examples you gave, I'm like, well, almost all of us are chasing those. Like when you talked about being relational, like we go to these grand scales in our mind, but like even on, like you said, the car analogy, like the car type of car we buy is for like to provide a sense of safety. Where we choose to live and how we outfit it and how we secure it is to provide a sense of safety. Knowing that if the true threats in society really wanted to come at us, they could get us in those cars, no matter how big they are, because we don't have like reinforced doors, bulletproof glass or anything like that in our homes. Even if we put bars on the windows, people can come through there. Like, so we know in a realistic way we're not
Yeah.
really protected the way we feel we are. Especially when we're turning our kids over to schools. We're like,
Right.
oh, we want our kids in safe schools. They're never safe if you're handing them off to somebody else that you're not observing 24/7.
Right. Right.
There's no real safety there. So it's like, so the
Mhm.
feeling of safety, it feels like all of us are chasing that. So even myself, I don't even then feel like it's fair for me to call
Yep.
somebody else delusional when I myself am chasing just more
Yes.
socially acceptable delusions.
Yes.
I'm chasing a more socially acceptable fantasy
Yep.
than this other person.
Yep.
So, but what do you think
Yep.
about like that? Does society
Yep.
set us up to be this fantastical?
Well, I say society can do whatever they want, but doesn't mean I have to cave into that, because why would it be acceptable in this society but not acceptable in another society, right? Why in one part of the world it is and the other side of the world is not. So we might be bombarded with it and see it everywhere, but how much of that do we feed into it? You know, not holistically, how much do we feed into any of this? The foods, the videos, the information we receive. You know, you should watch the news, but how much of it do you have to still determine what's real and what's not real? You can do whatever. You can have all these connections, but it's up to you at the end of the day what you do with it, how you feel about it, so on and so on. I do suggest that people consider that we all have those same things. I can have delusions, doesn't mean I'm necessarily delusional. I can be narcissistic or experience or act out those traits. Doesn't mean at my core I'm fully narcissistic, but I can speak to those things. One thing about being honest with yourself, when you get to know yourself, when you really, really, really get to know yourself, and then you can speak to those things and not feel bad about it. Oh, you know what? I'm having a narcissistic moment. I'm making everything about me, but yeah, it is about me right now. And I say that with confidence. It is about my children right now, and I say that with confidence. I am not going to allow the people at the school to do whatever, because yes, these are my truths. These are things that I'm determined and I'm comfortable with, as long as I'm not hurting other people with it. So I catch this on this certain thing and on the web, and then I catch this thing and I listen to this show and my favorite this and that and that. Now, which do I receive and which really works for me? How much rah can I really get into? Well, sorry, I got to give out one more shout out to the Seds. It was actually Mr. He said, I was listening to him about the Cash App and the super chats. Now, I'm new to the YouTube streets. Like I won't say big, but my platform has been Facebook. But previous to Facebook, I'm more of a live. Like I would do these panels live, and you wouldn't talk about energy, but people, you don't do as much as you say on getting up and fighting and all that. But we had some real heated conversations and debates live. So the comfort of being on the screen is like, yeah. So my point is, those conversations seem more authentic. People get to hide, leaving my camera. I can keep my camera closed. There's identity protection. So here I am, protecting myself by giving out this stuff here. So society can give me some information how I deal with it. Here's the thing that I think determines. Let's go back to the root of the tree. Am I necessarily built for? Am I really capable of handling some of this stuff that I hear?
Yeah.
And let's go with, and everything is not negative trauma. There's positive trauma too. Well, people we don't realize that, but there's positive things that happen but lead to a traumatic episode. Two parents that work, father works, mother works, or whatever the dynamics are, two moms, two dads, whatever your dynamic is. One parent, you say, can you please stay home today? And the parent says, I have to go to work. But they don't understand, and the kid doesn't know it, and the parent didn't do it on purpose. But in the back of the brain of the kid, a schema is locked in. I'm not good enough that you will stay home from me. There are parents who have just deceased, have nothing to do with anybody, heart attack, accident, but the kid at some point wonders, was it my fault? That has not, no one, so that wasn't like someone touched them or whatever, but they got locked in. You don't have time for me. I feel neglected, abandoned. Other parent, would you please spend some time with me? Not a whole day. Will you spend 1 hour with me? And that parent says, and then the little kid says, why do you have to work so much? I have to feed you? And you can get the nice version, I have to feed you, or you can get the not so, get the fuck out of here, move. All right? So, but I lock in my brain when I say this, I'd rather starve just so I can get one more hour with them. When that parent leaves to work, that kid locks in their brain. I just said I would delete myself through starvation just to get one more hour and you left. Those are the stems. That's what people grow up on. So I'm just going to call those pillars. People grow up on those pillars. And pending what you're getting is the pillar you stand on, able to compensate for those messages that you are taking in. If you're joining these wars, dude, this is book. I mean, how much psychological damage are you doing to yourself because of your inability to deal with? These are where the delusions come from. I no way in the
Mm-hmm.
world am I ever going to let, so I'm going to go this way. Is it realistic that you can go this way? But it's stemmed from here and is they're locked here. Bull, I'm never going to let. And then because we're magnetically attracted to what we said we don't want, we miss the red flags.
Mm-hmm.
So I say people need to do the healing and not just therapy, but do the healing, whatever that healing looks like. And it takes time. It's not a one time class, it's not a one time audio tape, it's not a one time conversation. It takes time to heal. And to be honest with ourselves, we have to be honest with ourselves. I can say, I can give reasons. No, seeing the thing, and the reason I'm watching the thing and the thing, well, I agree with them because is it yours? Are you agreeing with something that belongs to you, or because do you have empathy, or are you just what's going on? So I'll land with this: know yourself, like deep, know yourself. So whatever you're connecting to and receiving from society, you know if that's good for you or if it's not. You know if it's good for you or if it's not. What do we say about romantic relationships? I know I won't be with X, Y, and Z, right? And we're pretty
Mm-hmm.
clear about that. But same thing, the food we put in our body, do you know what you're doing? The information you're taking in, do you know what you're doing? The messages that you're cheerleading for, and I apologize, the messages that you're cheerleading for, are you aware of what you're cheerleading for and why? And at the end of the day, do you know how it will impact you in the long run? Because the stimuli at 2 p.m. is different than the stimuli at 2 a.m. I might hear a
That's
message at 2
facts.
p.m. that I'm fully on board with, but I feel some different way at 2 a.m. and it impacts me differently. And that I wasn't aware about. I didn't even think about that. And then that caused some type of self infliction as well. Anyway, I hope that made sense. That was
No,
another
that
kind of passionate area, so I was talking lengthy. Sorry about
No, you're fine. You don't have to apologize. That makes perfect sense to me. The only thing I would ask you to do, just for the people who are listening, because I've seen you. I know what this word is from studying, but schema. You use that word a lot. Could
that.
you
Oh
give like
yes,
a brief explainer of what that word means to anybody that has
yes.
never heard that before?
Absolutely. Dr. Young, and it's not even that old, it's 30, 40 years old. But if you look at a bus route, a train route, or if you ever watch those movies where they say the bomb is we have to cut the wire. Is it the yellow, red, green? Which wire do we cut? So the wiring in our brain, a schematic. So if you think of a schematic, so engineers use schematics. Like I said, if you take the subway or anything, you look at the red line, the yellow line, the blue line, the A train, the whatever. So that's a schematic. And those lights, like the green light right in this part of the schematic or the map. So imagine a part of the map in your brain, the train lines, red, yellow, green, whatever wire in your brain. It has an idea, a message right there, like a post on the wall. So if you ride the train, 72nd Street, and that post of 72nd Street, I'm a I'm I've suffered betrayal, or I've experienced, I won't say suffered. I've experienced betrayal. Every time I pass 72nd Street, that sign of betrayal is right there. And then because it goes within that line, so anything down that A line, down that train line, down that web, anything that crosses that web with that red line, or whatever you want to call it, betrayal will impact that line. So schema, there are 18 main ones. You can look SCHEMA, and I keep wanting to say it's Steve Young, but it's not, and I should know better. But it's Dr. Young.
No, I appreciate that. It made me think of when you said that. I kind of knew like because the schematic is the word I go to too, like just like etymology
Mhm.
type. But it's like when you said that and you talk about a stimuli or stimulus happens, it kind of starts the train rolling, but it goes back to that one, like in the root, like when you do the tree, it goes back to the root. Like when you
Yes.
you differentiated one time between trauma and like traumatizing or a traumatic event. So
Mhm.
like when you enter something now, it starts the train from way back at the root, at the beginning, the point of origin, the station. The train leaves the
Yes.
station from that first time your mother walked out and she had, your mother and your father both had to work. Nobody would listen to you, whatever. They walked out.
Yep.
Um, I'll put that
I
in the
put in your
chat
back
too.
chat here the link that I'm open. I didn't know if you want to put it where you want to
I'm gonna
send
drop
it.
it in the chat.
Uh, I'll just say really quick schema therapy. So it's about abandonment, but the perceived instability or unreliability of those available as support or connection. So if you develop that
Mm,
as a child, then the rest of your life, you will perceive that you're going to lose things. People are going to abandon you. And anytime something feels unstable, you are out. So when we talk
yeah.
about why you run so quickly, you run because you probably have this schema that is going to all break apart and you're going to be abandoned. Another one, mistrust and abuse. The
Yep.
exception that others will, you believe others will hurt you, humiliate you, cheat you, lie to you. Everyone in the world lies. You always get that one person, I never lie. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone lies, manipulate, or take advantage of you. Usually involves the perception that harm is intentional. Everything you just keep lying to me. No, I try to do this and I try to do that. I mean, you just why do you lie? Just me. Why can't you just be honest with me? Why do you have to do that to me? But the person's not doing that to you. They lie to everyone because we
Yeah.
personalize things. So I knew you could cheat. No, no, no. Like I remember tax season. I remember tax season. And you tried to find every little cheat there was. I remember playing a video game. You found every little cheat there was. I knew you
Mm-hmm.
could cheat. I just never knew you would do it to me. So I had
Right.
the schema of mistrust and abuse, emotional deprivation. So those who didn't feel nurtured. So the young man who didn't feel, the little boy who didn't feel nurtured as a kid, most likely he's going to seek a partner that's going to provide the nurturing that his mother should have given him. And so now they work really, 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 really hard to get that person that they want, the magic person, and then they finally get them. Then they spend the rest of the time trying to break them
Mm.
because I believe, just like my mother, you didn't stay around. It
Yeah.
sounded good when you said, "Oh, I'll rub your bald head." You would? Oh, yeah. And I'm just thinking, oh, that sounds all wonderful. Like, oh, wow. But then my protector slash perp in my brain says, you're going to do me just like everyone else did. And I start sabotaging the relationship. And
Mm.
then people say, why it seems like it's like you want to push me away. No one's pushing you away. No, I mean, every time I try, we make me try harder. And then we're gaslighting each other. All little did I know that in the back of my brain, this emotional deprivation and mistrust and abuse and abandonment, my defectiveness and shame. I have to say many times in a day how messed up I am, how stupid I am, how fat I am, how ugly I am. Because guess what? In return, if all goes well, I should be receiving, you look good. You are good. You are nice.
Mm.
I mean, woo, if I had a nickel, a dollar, or a nickel for every time that I got the feedback, you are nice. You are smart. You can do it. Be nice. Your feet are not that big. It's just your one toe. You can do it. Blah, blah. I mean, just, boom. My social
Fishing with a
isolation.
grenade.
Yes. My social isolation, my codependency. Oh my goodness. I won't be with someone because I don't want to be dependent on them, or I will be with someone because I'm dependent on them. And that also goes with work. You stay at a job, wait, you shouldn't be working there anymore. Yeah, but I got the money. Is that the only place? No, but the money, the money. So how you deal with dependency, vulnerability? Ooh, if you feel vulnerable, the amount of protection. So back to that gender war, you're not gonna touch my
Mm-hmm.
kid. See, I know when I was a kid, I didn't. Woo, I mean, I flex on things because the schema of vulnerability that someone's gonna get
Yeah.
hurt if I'm not on watch. So now I'm extra flex for protecting mine, protecting mine. The guy that you look at his partner and you say, wow, that person looks nice. Don't, I'll kill you. I'll kill you, kill you, kill you, kill you. Wait a second, wait a second. You encouraged your partner to, oh shit, damn. Open that up a little bit like that. Oh, yeah, that's a what. Turn around, turn around. God damn. Right? So you encouraged, or you knew that your partner felt good. I like the way this feels. Do it. And then you go out and you run into someone who has a set of eyeballs that work, and then you get upset. That person gets upset because what are you looking at? Oh, you should show them respect. And I get it. The person could be nude out there. Doesn't give anyone the right to touch and gaze and all that. I totally get it. But the whole idea is it really about that partner and your fear of losing, their fear of what they look like and blah 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 and being touched, or is it really about you feeling that that person is vulnerable and your schema is about vulnerability? And then the last couple of few enmeshment, being too enmeshed.
Mm-hmm.
People say you need to take care of yourself fully. You need to take care of yourself fully. Show up as a full individual into these relationships. Any work, friends, family, personal, romantic, failure. You believe you're going to fail at everything you do because you've never received positive results. So you take that as a kid all throughout your life. Did you apply for it? No, I'm not going to get that job. No, I'm just going to fail at it. And then you believe imposter syndrome, procrastination. Do you know procrastination is rooted into trauma? So you give me a report to do. I finally crank out the report. You bring it back and say, "Oh, doc, this should have been a period and this should have been a semicolon." And that takes me a week to get done. Let's see. Okay. Let me see what's on Yahoo. Okay, there we go. All right, here we go. All right, focus. All right. Ooh, there's a game tonight. Let me see who's gonna. And my brain won't allow me to focus. We call it ADHD and different things like that. But really, the belief that I'm going to fail, entitlement. There's your delusion. So I have a sense of entitlement, right? The belief one is superior to others. And where did they get that from? A lot of times we baby our babies. Isn't that wonderful? We give, and help them to develop the schema of you owe me. I'm entitled. Insufficient, not good enough, subjugation. Can't say no, do for others, do for others, do for others more than I do for myself. People pleasing, people pleasing. Self-sacrifice, part of that people pleasing. Seeking approval. Sometimes we call it submissive, but seeking approval for everything. Everything. Do you mind if I go? Or even I apologize. Oh, I'm sorry I went. No, don't apologize. You're good. Oh, and I'm sorry. No, you're good. Seeking approval. Negative, always. Pessimist, always. Emotional inhibition, an inability to be emotional or to express emotions to others. Unrelenting standards and being a hypocrite. Unrelenting standards is too much. Those expectations, you have 19 things the person has to do to be with you. Oh my goodness. Yep. And they have to be this and they have to be that. They have to be this tall, this thin, they have to be that, and they have to be this, they have to be made with peanut butter, and whoa. And then punitiveness. Any person who's been abused, I should say any, the majority of people who've been abused as a child, you will find that most of them, if they have this scheme of punitiveness, everything must come with a punishment. Everything must have a consequence. Everything needs a nope, I'm not moving on to the next subject until we first recognize and you know you messed up and you blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And you give that one to a manipulator who turns everything into sex. I mean, what are you going to do to make things right? What are you going to do this? What are you going to do? How are you going to sacrifice? How are you going to show me your... So anyway, those are the main schemas. And again, there's Dr. Young, Jeffrey Young, that invented that and has been around for decades. It's scientific, it's evidence-based, blah, blah, blah. So.
Oh, yeah. I was hearing about that. The word schema, it entered, my brain, I want to say 10 to 20 years ago. So, I mean, it's definitely been around for a minute. I was taking psychology. It might have been 2005. It had been around 2005. So, that's definitely something it's been out there for a while. So, I promise you, there's all this stuff all this stuff applies. I find a lot of us resist information. I'm actually about to go into a low information topic because we've talked about like Russians targeted black people during the 2016 election. COINTELPRO. So what I'm about to ask you, it has some believability to it. I just don't know if it's really truly credible. But I'm asking for your opinion here. Dr. Umar Johnson believes that the FBI is behind this gender war, trying to divide the black family. Do you think there's any credence to conspiracies like that, or is this a natural, or is like the gender war? Is this a natural evolution of, like you said, the gossip and relationship sector that happened before the internet?
Yeah, it's a mix. I mean, I tell myself I try not to get involved in too many of those things. But you know, the invention of the computer and the invention of the social media has really pushed us so far forward with how fast we receive information and how we get to express it. You know, even from dance, just dance. I get to see what type of dance they do over in this one country that I've never seen before due to the video. I get to hear, I get to see, a lot of these pranks now. I whenever see some of these pranks where people walk up to you and like, what? Or like, I'm gonna shoot you or whatever, and then it's a prank. But people have been doing pranks for decades. But now to actually see it and then to be enthused or entertained by it or shocked and in horror by it. So those opportunities were not there before, but I think the general behaviors, they all repeat themselves. We did that dance a long time ago. That music, man, that song was actually 40 years ago. And I think human behavior repeats itself. So a lot of the things now, we just get a different view of it. And I think when it comes to like politics or monitoring or supervising, eavesdropping, whatever you want to call it. I mean, weren't we saying this about Malcolm X? And weren't we saying this about Martin Luther King? And weren't we saying this about so on and so on and so on and so on? There's always been involvement in some type of supervision of what's going on in the country and who's doing what and who has too much power and who has the voice and who's following who. That's always been there. So I wouldn't doubt it that they did have a hand or an ear or whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't doubt that's a history or a practice. That's a practice that they've done for decades. Why stop now? As far as helping to divide, same thing. I think there's certain influence that you can pay someone. Rashawn, did you see the movie Queen and Slim and Queen?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Do you remember the guy at the end at the airport? I mean, the one who took him to the airport.
I can't remember.
Guy,
I'm gonna tell you, I didn't enjoy the movie. I didn't enjoy the movie,
okay.
so it's hard for me.
It's an older movie, so I hope I'm not giving anything away. But at the end, someone was offered, those things. Call the hotline. Call the hotline if you see, and you get paid. And the idea is black on black. You don't report each other. But I think he got 250,000. He was the one taking them right to the track. So I think certain people can be influenced by whatever. And FBI and any other agencies, they take advantage of whatever opportunities they have to get more information, however they need to get it. And then there's a gender war. Somebody's got to be the loudest and the proudest in that conversation. Who has the power in this conversation? So it doesn't necessarily have to be about the gender war as much as it is to see, whoa, that person has power. Let's take note. Let's listen into what they're doing and saying. And that's a practice they've done forever. So yes, I agree. They have a role in it. As far as Russia, what we saying about?
No, I was just saying like there are conspiracy theories that are backed by credible. There are some things credible sources like, oh no, people really were after you. Like not everybody that's paranoid isn't being pursued. That kind of thing. So when he said the FBI and the gender war, I was like, at first I'm like, that's silly. But I'm like, there's a history of people tampering with populations for a variety of reasons. So I was like, I didn't want to just dismiss it. So I was just curious, like from your perspective, what you might have thought. But
my perspective is you have whatever governing body that's responsible for listening, watching, protecting, seeing who's what and what's doing what. I think we'll have that forever. And whatever the major topic is, that gives me a good view of who's what. So with the civil rights, these are the people, the powerful people about civil rights for blacks. Let's keep an eye on them. And then whatever we do to discredit them, whatever we do, that's, the politics that we play. So in the gender wars, we're talking about influencing women through commercials and blah, 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 and the consumer and all that. But there's this other group trying to stop this group from being a consumer and spending money. And this group is trying to stop that group. And whoa. Let's take note, because it messes with the infrastructure. Let's try and figure this out. Who's doing what? So is it intentional to destroy and kill, and why them? And that's their duty from day one has been to listen, observe, and dismantle. And whatever the subject is that's going to mess up the structure of things, then that's who we'll deal with.
I respect that. Shout out to Bro C. I don't think I greeted you when you came in. Forgive me. Let's talk to Better Black Life. Appreciate you for tapping in. I know you might be back to work and off the stream, but Wanted to acknowledge you and thank you also. Here's Tribe Media Group for the Cash App donation. Not gonna play the clip today. I got you though. I'm gonna remember. I got you. I'm gonna play the clip another time. Last question on the topic, so to speak. Everything's still gonna be related to the gender war, but I'm gonna add more of the Thanos stuff in after this because I've I say I over prepare. I guess I always over
Yeah.
prepare with questions.
All
But I
right.
want to ask this one. In people, in my opinion, I did study a little bit of psychology. Carrot and the stick, the positive and negative reinforcement. I see that as like the root of everything that really people do. They're either chasing the desire, the carrot, the positive reinforcement, or they're trying to avoid the pain, the aversion, the fear. They're trying to avoid pain. So that's the negative reinforcement. Like those, really, it feels like every time I look at something, if I tear it down to why somebody did something, it's one of those two in some form. We talked about relational. In these spaces, it seems like we always land in the extremes of that, like either pandering to a group of people, men or women, where nothing is required of them at all, even self-awareness, accountability, vulnerability, nothing, or the opposite, where we're kind of like heavy-fisted, like strong language, like coming at them, where it starts to feel like bashing and bullying and demeaning and diminishing. With these type of dynamics, are we even able to offer motivation and influence, or are we mostly like desperately just punching at the air, like in some semblance of catharsis? Like, where do you think these conversations are landing?
If you bring passion to anything, how do you express yourself? How do you express? You be passionate about something, defensive about things, or even on the offense about things, really to get things going. I think a person's ability to listen, not personalize, it's hard. I think the ability to not swell. See, the thing about this thing here, like right now, you and I are dialoguing, but you you have the power and control over there with the switch. I could be saying something sincere, and all of a sudden you play with no sounds, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I can say something that you don't believe, and I'm giving my 2 cents about it, and all of a sudden you play like an audience laughing. So, so that those interactions you have to take into consideration. Like, not only are we dialoguing, but what's the extra pieces coming in?
Yeah.
Extra pieces. That whole thing when I call it the two gangs. So when I first met you and Yella and Mandrell was trying to bridge two different groups of people, come over to our side of the network, come to the side of the network. But what goes with that? If you have 50 people in your audience who are, when you say home field advantage.
Yeah.
So pending the home field advantage, pending the individual, pending the subject and the passion and all that, some people default to their natural behaviors. Aggression. That's the only way I felt heard is I have to be aggressive. But I have
fair.
to elevate that aggression because, like, God damn it, you can't see. In person, I could swell up a certain way, and you wouldn't. Hopefully, the person who's intimidated by it, but I could swell up a certain way here, and all you're gonna really do is look at on your screen like, wow. You can say certain words that I hear like, whoa, that hurt my. But I think things are exaggerated. I think there's a lot of punching in the air. And then when you have direct communication, people who are really trying to help move the needle, not the goalpost, the actual needle, start the engines, get the wheels rolling, then it seems like people don't show up for that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is. That's what I was thinking about the he said, Mr. He said. He did a show where he was like, people are more focused on the Cash App. And I was like, yeah. And I realized at the end of that show, I was like, the Cash App, did you send the order? We get the. But people aren't really doing the actions they said they're going to do. So knowing your abilities, your limitations, and all that, I think will help. But if you already know you're not, and if you already know you're going to get triggered by these things, also the information highway is also the entertainment highway. This is the new soap opera. This is a soap opera for me. This is entertainment. I get a feel good. I get a sense of purpose. I get a sense of community. I can come to every single one of
True.
these shows and just log in and just like, and this feels like family.
Yes, sir.
So if you punch, I punch. When you asked me earlier, what does boom come? What comes to mind with boom? Well, if we said that, let's say we were all live or something, boom, we all run. So I think part of that swinging and believing, like, just it must be this way or it must be that way, attack or don't attack. I believe we keep feeding into that. There's a lot of swinging in the air, but when it comes to actual action, what are people doing? And then are people coming to YouTube or to Facebook or these different platforms? Are they coming to make that significant change? Are they really coming for that? Like, oh, I want to see how can I be, because the original purpose for this, educate and entertainment, but we take real life scenarios and issues and turn those into entertainment or chaos. But TED Talks and all these different things that YouTube really was built up about being able to spread information, being able to see things across the globe, being able to learning about the water and underwater and animals and learning and information and entertainment. Now it's turned into a daily course, a daily serving of the news and the hot news and the drama this and the drama that and sexualizing that and boom, boom, objectifying, finding the wrongs and motivating and that stimuli becomes overwhelming. And then we're not actually doing things to take care of things. We're just getting caught up in the entertainment is my thought.
No, I definitely agree with you. What's up, the world class in the building? Appreciate you for tapping in. I did want to add a few of these because I didn't order everything. Because again, I kept reconfiguring everything up to the last minute. I was emailing Dr. Nakumbe. I've resorted everything, and I'm still even live trying to figure out exactly where I wanted to go with the Thanos question. Because again, these questions are still related to the gender war, but I was prefacing them with a quote from Thanos.
I'm listening. Mm-hmm.
So the first question I will ask you, sir, were you stepping away for a moment? Because if you need to step away.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Now go ahead. But everybody, definitely appreciate you for listening in. Just real quick while he is handling his business, I will be back tomorrow with like part 2 of a conversation with a counselor. I'll be talking to Sheila Ingram of Bravo with Sheila, among her other channels. We will be having another conversation similar to this, but it's not going to be so much around the linked fate aspect of it, how we all feel like a shared burden, a shared fate, destiny, whatever, our share, like that gender identity is going to be more centered around the loss aspect of it. But I did want to acknowledge that while Dr. Nakumbe had to step away. My question for you, I'm going to preface it again from things from the Avengers Marvel universe where Thanos was inserted. There was I'm thinking if I want to ask this one or move on to the next. Let me see. Let me move on to the next because you kind of talked about that. This day extracts a heavy toll. That's something Thanos said after he had lost a lot of his, I would say, high-ranking generals. He lost a couple of them. And I was watching this episode of Star Trek the other day, and this person says, some things break in a way that can never be repaired, only managed. And it reminds me of what you said about trauma. Like everybody, we cure your trauma, fix your trauma. No, you manage it. You deal with it, you understand it, but you're not really going to cure it. It's always going to be there. So in a macro sense, as genders, I believe we've lost our ability to relate to one another. Quantum said something in the chat that I think this stems from. The common denominator is the self. That is all these reoccurring situations and people. So the self is the thing I think that's really broken, that is breaking our ability to relate to each other. A broken relationship is internal. It's a loss of self. Do you feel in general that relationships are strained, like overwhelmingly so? Not like in a general sense, people have struggled because there's two people. It's going to be difficult. So I'm not trying to, make a mountain out of a molehill. It's going to be difficult to bring two people's lives together. But do you think we've overwhelmingly lost that ability to do so, like efficiently and effectively? And what would you contribute? Like, what are the culprits? Like when you're talking to families, couples, what are the type of things that you're identifying as the breakdowns in these dynamics?
Great question. And when I also think about Quantum's response about self, and I believe actually Quantum and I just talked about this the other day or chatted. I agree with Quantum when not only self, but please, I just want to be clear. When I talk about trauma, it's easy to think about, oh, a person has trauma and they're doomed for life or damaged for life. We don't have to actually live. We don't have to, like, we are not our trauma. Like, we are not, those schemas I just read off. We don't have to, like, that's not who we are. We might attend to those. Those might play out, but that's not. So I just want to be clear that yes, absolutely is about us, and we need to be aware. But anyone experiencing trauma, at the same time, I just want to add that we are not those traumas. And people come to me for support with their relationships, I ask them to consider a few things. I take them not just their parents. I ask for them to go 2 to 3 generations back to tell me what those relationships were like. Gramps, great gramps, and your parents. Tell me what those were like. Looks like divorce has run through all the generations. It looks like make sure you do better than we do better. So a lot of expectations came with it. Trauma came with it. So look 3 generations back. So understanding the mental health, because I think that plays a big role in how we relate to each other. And a lot of people are not upfront about their mental health when they get into a relationship. When do I tell you I have a gambling addiction? When do I tell you I'm alcoholic? When do I tell you I have depression? And especially if I'm feeling better right now in the moment, when do I tell you I'm on meds? You come over my house, all my stuff's put away. Then all of a sudden you open my file or my cabinet and you see medications and stuff. When do we have those conversations? Or the extreme. Hi, how you doing? Yep, I'm the doc. Now listen, I have herpes and I have depression and I'm like, whoa, what, whoa, right? Like, whoa,
Man.
peace, I'm out. So no, so mental health plays a role. I think your community that you live in plays a role. You finally get with your partner and you're trying to make some things happen and work, but the community goes against, like, is always some type of sabotage of who's going to rise up or whatever, or something that's just, and you get it on both ends. You get a black family to say, we finally moved from this community and we go to this community, but this community doesn't want you there.
Yeah.
We try to go back, but that community says, you were too good for us. So then where do we kind of find and land? Social media, I think, plays a role. So again, you have all the different media sources, everything from the news to what we watch for television, the Netflix series, and then the TikToks and all of it. I think that plays a major role in people being able to receive that. What do they do with that? And then how much do they try to apply that to their relationships? Even the corn industry. Corn. I say to my first responders, they are some of the biggest targets to substances and the corn use because they take on what's called vicarious trauma. So your nurses, your teachers and social workers who are like they don't want to see families broken apart. Your police, firefighters, EMTs, they didn't save a life. They couldn't get the people out of that burden. They couldn't. All that. What do you do with it? So I call it vicarious. I don't call it. It is called vicarious trauma, but I call it an invisible backpack. So what looks like a one-time problem for you is a ton of weight for me. And how do you take care of that? So the relationships that used to be thriving and we were together, but those are becoming less and less. And the intimacy that we poured into each other is less and less. And now we might make love. We might. And if we do, we start at 7:00 and end at 7:07. And then I'm in the computer room for then I'm in the computer room for 4 hours.
Oh man.
Oh, I'm just checking email. I'll be in there. And then the stuff I'm watching, because our sensory is through our eyes. So you talk about sensory overload, and then they have these hubs You get all your different flavors, like wow, click, 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 click,
Mm-hmm.
click, 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 click. Look at the YouTubes and stuff. They all learn how algorithms work and how. And if you watch one, you might like this one, and if you like that one, you might like that. And we added this to your list, and click, 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 click. And now I'm just consumed, and I'm no longer into my relationship. I'm no longer into my personal relationship. I'm no longer into my family. I'm pouring more into this device. I'm pouring more into my phone and tablets and computers than I pour into my partner or to my kids or to myself. I've forgotten myself. And then the parts when I do try to get back to myself, I'm going to see what they say online about how can I be myself. Let's see what they say about how I can be myself. So I think all those things have played a role, and then it impacts how we change our values and then our beliefs. We have a core value system. We have a core belief system. I think some of these things that is mentioned tampers with your belief system. And then we are now in the world more and more and more was about me, 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 me. So some of the core values that we learned with our family, if they don't sit right with us, we're changing those. And then we're trying to adjust to new ones. But depending what the flavor is of the day or season, we go with those. So individualism, changing our values, changing the job description in the middle of the night. Are you familiar with Lady Di and Dating to Marriage? James and Lady
No.
Di.
No.
Um, they were talking about one time she got a flat tire, and she called her husband James. Boom, he was there within minutes, or when he made it to her destination. Not a lot of back and forth. And well, what do you want me? Boom, they already had a plan. If I'm ever out and I
Mm.
need your help, what's the plan? Like, whoa, he dropped off his car, told her to take the car, and he stayed with that car and worked on the tire. And they said it was just boom. We just knew to do it. And so I think we've lost a lot of that kind of what
Mm.
do we do? Now we just go off the seat of our pants. So those are the things that come to mind. A lot of busyness, busy, 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 busy. The generation before us worked so hard to make sure my family didn't get a divorce because my parents were divorced, and I'm not gonna let my parents divorce. I'm not gonna divorce. I'm gonna work hard and work hard. My dad was never around. They divorced. He was never around, and now I work hard. I work hard. I work hard. Can I ask you a question? Yeah. How many jobs? Yeah, I have 3 jobs because I'm determined to keep the family together. You said
Mm-hmm.
your dad was never around? Yeah. And when are you around?
Got him.
The
Got him.
very thing, the very thing they were doing to work on to avoid,
No.
they fell right into that trap. They may not be divorced, but the thing was, I didn't have my father around. Now I work hard to keep my family together, but I'm never around. And we just
Yeah.
keep repeating cycles. So repeating cycles also plays a role.
I definitely want to respect your time, and I know I have about like 20 minutes left with you.
Yeah.
But I want to ask a couple of questions. Well, this one just was spawned by something you had just said. Actually, a couple things. I also think what you said about I would say like the people who were spending time online, they're spending time. I would even say during these conversations on these panels. What would you say about the message it sends to the family sitting there at home, who even may even support them having a hobby of getting online, podcasting, joining panels, but it sends that message, like you said, like that child whose parent went to work and didn't choose to be with you. Because I know there are a lot of people whose children, whose wives, whose husbands are like, I can't get you to spend 30 minutes with me without a lot of back and forth. But I can watch you spend 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 hours on these panels talking to all these strangers. Like, what do you say to the people who may find themselves feeling that way? They have a hard time getting their partner out of their phone or their parent out of their phone. What would your advice be to them on managing that feeling of, like not being selected, not being chosen by the person that they love?
Two things to consider: addiction. A lot of people think addiction like to crack. You're addicted to crack, but there's only one addiction, but it could be to something different. So the consumption rate is probably an addiction issue. So I have to get on YouTube tonight. I have to get on now. I'm missing work. So anytime where something's impacting your ability to function daily, that might be an addiction. The drinking got to the point now where you can't get to work, you can't wake up. It's probably an addiction or a problem. self-soothing. You know, you get a big jar of Jergens, and then all of a sudden now that's just like right next to you always, and you have a routine, morning routine and night routine, and you can't even get to sleep for it unless you get in a squeeze one out. That's an addiction. So this daily, I got to check in, setting our timers, making sure the boom. Now the content creators need time like a job. They need time to create, investigate. So, and especially those making money from it. So it really is like a job. So, but their approach, I challenge those who approach the same way you would treat or challenge a person with an addiction. If you come in with you're stupid, you're bad, you're always, you never have time for me, you never have time for me, you always. Wow, 7 hours. Well, who's the bitch? I mean, who you talk? Boom, boom, boom. So I look at it as you are finding a sense of purpose. You are finding a sense of community. You are finding a sense of family. You are finding a sense of gathering information. Just you're a hunter gatherer. Like you like the different views. It's like a soap opera. You feel entertained. So there's a purpose behind the behavior, and I want to help that person look at the positives of those behaviors. Wow, man, when you get on the panel, what's that like? Whoo, I guess 5,000 people, and they chose me to get up on the panel. Hold on, no, I'll get to you later. Just relax, calm down. See, that's not a panel over there. This is, hi, how do I look? You know, and so like that's a different stimuli than
Yes,
this.
sir.
Hey, but if you pour into those relationships and learn how to gauge, this here feels good, but I'm going to time this to maybe 1 hour a day or so and so a week or whatever, because this relationship is what's still there. When I turn this off, when this is off, this is my family here. When this is down, no matter what's going on tomorrow. So my core family, I'm going to commit to the commitment about my core family. And then together we'll make commitments. Together we'll make commitments about how we do this. And I'm hoping to move them from feeling threatened. Like this is my, like, don't, if you don't like it, you know, hey, this is what I do, and I'm needed on the show. But together, if you're partnered or family or have some type of connection or a friend or whatever you're separating from, together have those healthy conversations about, man, I do. And I'm gonna be honest, I get sucked in. And then they invited me one time to the back chat. Like I already said, like I was already on the thing, like, all right, we're gonna drop the link for the back chat. And I should really get to bed. Oh, let me see this back chat. And I was just back there, and just people are just cracking it. And I'm just sitting there. Oh, hi. Oh. But I'm so, and so my partner, that's why I want that partnership to say, no, I want you to encourage me. Like, hey, you know, you don't do well after 2 a.m. You turn into a wolf, you know, you like, you know, but encourage and help me work on that pattern. And then I'm going to put my part into it too. Hey, the so-and-so is calling, or I promise, or I have an agreement, or my family, or put the kids to, or just myself. I'm going to take a bubble bath. I'm going to do, well, you can set up your device while you take no electronics, no. So creating a structure around it so that way it's not impacting your family.
I like that. That's actually practical advice. So I definitely like that. Last couple of questions. I had the question structured a different way, but I'm going to ask it more in a practical advice way. What's a healthier way for us to have conversations and confrontations around our fears and frustrations regarding relationships than the way we're currently having? I know you said there's more cons right now. How can we get to more pros?
Well, first of all, be honest and get out your feelings. Get out your feelings and be more honest. So even there's some practical stuff, but sometimes you just got practical. Sometimes is shut the fuck up and sit down or do it. I mean, it doesn't be that aggressive in language, but depending how we receive, to the limit. I'm gonna push to the limit. Hey, leading is not me just rah rah rah, but me leading is also being able to have open, honest conversations. Let's keep it real. Your feet stink, dude. You ain't washed your ass. You ain't done nothing. You've been sitting up there. You've been playing, and you seem to get to work. How do you just go from the game system to the work? Like, how did you? Seriously? And then you complain. People act like, and then have the nerve to stop at a red light and be like, damn, I couldn't be out here like that, all smelly, funky ass, and you couldn't be. So open, honest, real conversations, especially if we're talking about partnership and/or family. And even if it's not a romantic partnership, as friends. See, even I struggle in this department because I feel if I have a connection to you, if you've entered my world and I'm in your world and we claim as friends,
Hmm.
then I should be able to tell you, hey man, you got a booger in your nose. I should be able to tell you, hey man, you got some. I should be able. You should be able to tell me, look like you sounds like and looks like you're getting in your feelings.
Yeah.
That to me is what friendship's about. So when we talk about communication, not just talking to be talking, but real communication and then action. Too much talk and promises and I promise and I will and action, action, and not just to
Hmm.
impress. People can come to YouTube to get impressed. I don't need to be impressed, but really looking at the action, talking to each other straight, honest, but being aware of people's vulnerabilities, not to step on those. So you don't have to be
Hmm.
abusive about it. But I always say, uh, what do you consider to be abusive? It always is convenient that whenever I'm trying to have honest, open conversations, now I'm being abusive.
Yeah.
Why, why is that abusive when I'm open and honest? But maybe my version of open and honest, not your version. So
Yeah.
then teach each other. What's your version? What's my version? Okay, so I know your boundaries, you know mine. How far can we stretch? How far can we go? I don't know if that's appropriate. Oh yeah, because when it comes to sex, it seems to be appropriate. Can I put it in this hole? Wait, no, I don't. And then we wear down, right? We talk and talk and use the wear down method. See, it wasn't that bad. Now let's try this, and now let's try that. So when it's for your deviant things, you can get it done, but when it's for something that's healthy and structured and da da da, we seem to struggle because it
Hmm.
feels uncomfortable to have those conversations. I play a
Hmm.
game in the schools. In the schools, some teachers love it, and others are like, "Whoa, what happened?" I put up the word penis.
Oh man. Oh,
Yeah,
cancel.
but see, yeah, but remember earlier I was talking about oh the clown was in the school doing magic. Oh now the cross right. So I put on
Yeah.
the word on the board penis, and I said, okay, class, I want you to tell me every single word you know for penis. And they just go, especially the guys. Johnson, I put up the first D word, and they just go, monkey.
Hmm.
All right, vagina, and they just go. Give me a whole list, 50 things. They make up stuff in the moment. Scratch box. Yeah, okay.
Hmm.
Then I put
Yeah.
up the I put up the word sex. Monkey humping, fucking bubble. Boom. Okay. And then after I got all the names, and they have to make sense. They have to make sense. The names.
Yeah.
I put up arm, ARM. Uh, your expenditures. Your dukes. It has to make sense. If I'm talking about sticking my Johnson in your taco, we know I'm talking about fucking. But if you talk about my left expenditures was itching, I don't know. So my whole point is then we do math. Yeah. Then we do math. How many times in a
Oh
day do you
shoot.
think about your penis? How many times a day do you think about your vagina? Usually the women, their numbers are always low. How many times you think about sex? So these numbers are really high. How many times did you use your arm in 1 minute? Anything from writing to picking your nose.
Man.
So at the end of the day, it should be about 14,000. That's including the 8 hour sleep. 14,000 times, but you only have one, two, or three names for it. And here's something you
Oh.
don't even think about, but you claim to think about it 100 times a day, but you really don't. And yet you have a list of 100 deep, 50 deep. So my whole point behind that is where are we prioritizing?
Yes.
Where are we prioritizing in our lives and in our relationships? Where are we prioritizing? And I think that's
Yes.
so important because if you don't prioritize your life, your family, your business, your work, your this and that, you'll just be out there everywhere, and it won't add up to anything at the end. On that, let me 30 seconds on this because I
Okay.
always be careful when I tell people when I remind people that if something won't add up to the end.
Hmm.
Please take into consideration the people who don't see an end. If a
Hmm.
parent is telling their 16-year-old, but college, and that 16-year-old is so stressed out and they don't think they're going to make it to 18, college means nothing.
Absolutely.
Your wife and your husband and your partner, when you get 30 and 30, I actually have a book that I wrote where I'm not going to move past 25. 30 in the world that we live in. So I just want us to be mindful. When we talk about this
Yep.
futuristic doomsday, if you don't do and you make, even if it sounds positive, well, you know, in the thing in the future, but there is a population of, there's a set number of people who don't live that futuristic life. So just keep that in mind as well.
No, that's absolutely facts. That's one of the issues I've had with a lot of people that give advice. Everybody will talk about this future, but I always had a hard time projecting myself into the future that way. So it's like very few people, especially the men. The men in my family didn't live to a good old age. So it's hard when everybody's always talking about this future planning. I'm like,
Yes.
you talking about 65? I can't see it. And then my
Yes.
choices kind of, well, I guess it's like a self fulfilling prophecy almost because I couldn't see myself out there. I also
Mhm.
then make choices that almost make sure that I'm never going to see
Right.
65.
Right.
So
Right. Yep.
yes,
I'm
so,
saying I didn't do any major future planning and retiring and all that. And now I'm getting closer to those ages. And I'm like, damn, I'm going to hit a lick. Like, oh, man. But we just don't see some of those things. It's not even on our radar.
yeah. I was just talking to my mom yesterday, and she was like, my uncle. She was like, yeah, 'cause we was talking. Me, my nephew, and my mother were all talking, and he asked her about his brother. Well, I remember, but I remember from like 12, and she was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he died when he was 40. I can't remember exactly, 40 something. It was either
Mm-hmm.
40, 41, or 42, and I'm like, dang, I've already passed him, which is crazy. I outlived
Mm-hmm.
my uncle. And
Right.
before 45, I've outlived my uncle, which is crazy. But I wanted the next Thanos quote I want to ask you about because he says all that for a drop of blood. Because you know they exerted so much energy and effort, and you know all they did was scratch his cheek. As many
Yeah.
conversations as we've had over the 3 years about the same topics, very little has changed as far as language, behavior, or understanding. Have we overestimated our ability to tackle these issues simply by talking?
But you know, what comes to mind is the actual movie, um, because what's to do with the time,
Doctor
Doctor Strange?
Strange. Yeah.
So what do you say, 14 million, billion, whatever of all that is
Yep.
only one. But so he played out in his mind whatever that number was, 14 something. Was it billion or what was it? Do you remember?
It was like 14 million something. Yeah,
14
it was like
million?
14
Yeah.
million. Yeah.
Well, not everyone in the movie went through for all 14 million, but clearly they played out 14 million in the whatever. I attribute that to this. Like there may be we might be doing this 14 million times before we realize the kind of the one way.
Yeah.
But remember, there's a new nuance almost daily. There's a new story. There's a new debate. There's a new version about it. There's a new battle. And here's where I'm concerned that we're always trying to one up the other. Like it's never. So we're gonna one up, and then inadequacy is never enough. It's never enough. I thought we came to an agreement, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. So all of that for, and what were you hoping for when you, like I told you, my degrees, all of that to still only be able to be employed based off of one degree,
Yeah.
all that for, right? And so I think to answer your question, I mean I didn't answer your question, but just in closing of that question, in my answer, I think that idea of moving the goalpost has become so the norm now. And some people call it. Some people actually say, hold on now. You goofing up now. You're moving the goalpost and able to move it back. Let's stay here. This is as far as we go with it. Let's But then the boredom. So they put the goalpost back. But then the boredom like, what do we do now? Like what do we so they don't know how to manage that. They just start creating shit like what like or you get to move the goalpost and then there's still more play and entertainment and drama and chaos.
Man.
So that's the struggle I think we run into.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I think it also plays in like I promise you, I had a bunch of questions, but as you talk, you've touched on every pretty much question I've had, because even with that one, you talked about it with the sense of the penis and the arm, because
Yep.
we're
You
doing
had a
all
question
our
about
effort.
food?
Yeah, like we're putting all of our effort into understanding penis. Like we've got
Yep.
50 bazillion words for penis,
Yep.
but the thing that would have drawn more blood from the problem that we say we're trying to tackle would
Right.
have been having a greater understanding of our arm. Like how, what are the points of articulation? Where can you get the most torque? Like all of the different things about understanding the functionality of the thing that's most pertinent to our lives. We don't put the study into. So I think that's why we got to the point where I asked about the drop of blood is because of what you shared just prior to about the penis and the arm, because we're spending so much more time
Yes,
talking and thinking
man.
on the things that are barely consequential to our daily life.
Right.
But the thing that actually matters, we skip right by it. And Greg Bryant,
Yep.
hello. Good to see you. But I definitely wanted to again, a lot of my questions like you've already touched on in some capacity. So I appreciate your time today. I want
I know
to
you have
just
tomorrow. You have
bravo
Pastor
with Sheila Ingle.
Yeah,
Yep.
man, I got a chance to share space with her, and I talked away where I like we didn't. She didn't get enough chance to really work her magic, but I got a chance to listen to a couple of her shows.
Hmm.
We didn't talk about it, but I hope you hit on it, and you already have your thing. But the power of spirituality, the power of religion, the power. Oh, we did talk about my. Oh, we said God, right? But we didn't
Yeah,
talk about
God
it.
came up. I did
But
have a question for that, but I skipped it about the.
but as much as I talk about the psychology piece, but I think there's a whole piece where I'm not sure people are as connected as we can be. I don't want to push anyone towards religion, but then like there are a number of people who I don't think really utilize, and I get it that the church, there's been damage in the church, there's been things, beliefs about this and beliefs about
Absolutely.
that. My ear cut off, so hopefully you still hear me, earpiece. So I get it. There are certain things that kind of tampered with the church and the belief, and the Bible doesn't. But please, I hope tomorrow people get to cook with that question or conversation about uh, religion and or spirituality. That connection is so important in my belief. And again, I didn't even connect it as well as what the security boss and Pastor Sheila were doing, but I got to hear more and more of what they were saying. I'm like, well, duh. But I was quick to say, well, yeah, there's not a prayer that's going to take away schizophrenia. There's not a prayer that's going to change, right? Because people were still, but, whoo, I got a chance to hear them cook, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to add that piece.
Absolutely. No, I definitely want to ask that. I was actually going to ask that of you
Talking.
about
Just a second. I don't know.
faith.
One of these cut out on me, so
The
I can't hear
what's
you.
that?
And I know it's going to happen. I'm going to connect it, and it's going to say pause. Hold on just a quick second. Let me see my audio. Just a second, please. Yep, it switched. And can I put it back? All this technology, and it won't let me put it back. So I'm just going to use my speakers here. All right. Testing StreamYard. Okay. All right. Can I say something? Now I can hear you now. But are you getting
Okay, cool.
feedback? Are you getting double echo or anything?
A little bit, so I'll say something and pause. I was just going to ask you, since we're getting ready to wrap up, if you could just shout out your show on Black Men Unfiltered, your website, Facebook, all that stuff, and then just close up with your final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up.
All right. Thanks to you and this opportunity to have this space and share with you. Just from my talking a whole bunch, I think you and I could just chop it up for hours. I mean, not only just the questions, but like even kind of have some more mutual dialogue for both of us. So I thank you for the space to get to know more about me, so on and so on. And hopefully I was able to offer something to your community here of your fans and people who are listening over here. And I would love to have more of this, getting to know each other and how we could support each other. Again, who listens to you, who listens to me, blah, 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 but bridging that more. And it's okay. We don't have to be connected on everything, but what can I benefit from what you say? What can I benefit from this content provider? What can I benefit? What can I take away? How does that help? So audience, I didn't read a lot of the chat and stuff. I was, whatever questions you were bringing up. So again, thank you for those who were here in the chat and staying with us during the conversation or listening to the replay. I have my own channel, but I just changed my name. It was DR Nakumbi. I just changed it. to The Truth Talk Doctor. So The Truth Talk DR. So The Truth Talk DR. I have my website, Dr. Nakumbi, NAKUMBE.com. That's mostly about the couples work that I do. And then probably my most visible space is on Facebook, Let's Get At It.com, which leads right to Facebook. So let's LETSGETIT, Let's Get At It.com. And again, that's my Facebook where most of my posts and stuff are. I'm adding content. If you would like to subscribe or like on my YouTube, that would be great. So I'll be adding it soon. I'm on Black Men Unfiltered Network on Thursdays with Coach K, where we talk about mental health issues and breaking the cycles of mental health and that belief that we can't be better or do better. We can. It does not have to be all through counseling or psychology. There's different methods we try and introduce. We talk about coaching, we talk about mentoring, and different methods that people can use, but we just want to reduce the stigma behind the idea of being better or getting better. So thank you again for this opportunity to share my perspectives. I appreciate you, and I look forward to being here again with you.
I definitely appreciate you, Dr. Nakumbe, for coming through and offering your insights. So definitely look forward to receiving something from me. And I'm gonna try to get back over there. I know the days that you're on. And you said Thursdays, correct? Everybody's on Thursday.
Yeah, I think
everybody.
I know I compete with the SEDS and a couple of others, so I think we all compete around that time. But
Yeah.
definitely, if I do your replay, I'll just do more like input on the actual on your wall. So and if we can catch each other, great. But if not, let's schedule something. Let's actually say, hey, what's up? Do you have a time where we can get together?
Absolutely. Now we can definitely do this again because again, there was a bunch of questions I missed, and we can talk about a lot of other topics. It ain't all you got about the gender war, but I had an idea to hear a man's perspective who's a counselor on the dynamics of the gender war, who's been privy to these conversations, and then a woman's perspective on the same type of thing. I think that would offer a more holistic and balanced perspective. And again, you're both professionals. You're both in the psychological field. It's not random. It's not the guy who lives 3 doors down around the corner hopped on a podcast because he bought a mic at Best Buy and is sharing his feelings because he got dumped 6 months ago. It's not that. This is a much more balanced and holistic perspective from you, and then from Sheila. I think again, it's more informed. So I think people can hear about the gender dynamics, how it applies to relationships, and neither one of you will take the time to be like, but women or but men. It's not going to be that, because you both deal with humans, and you all from your experience have learned that humans deal with the same issues, even though they may present differently. We're dealing with fear and anxiety and insecurity and hurt. So I definitely respect what the profession that you guys have chosen, because dealing with people is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I just, even asking for money for it, I don't know if it would make it worth it for me. But thank you for your service to the world. Thank you for taking your time on this platform. Again, we'll definitely do something again soon. I really hate to do what I'm about to do. My outro is really just not going to fit the tone of the conversation. It's really not. But I love y'all so much. Thank y'all for being here, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a good night.
God bless.
Wait. Speaking of Moneyball, thank you, Danique Anthony, who just dropped the Cash App before we head out. So that's what I'll do. Instead of playing that, before that guy starts cussing, I'll play the Cash App video, and that'll be the outro. So thank you all. Appreciate Danique. Thank you, Harris Tribe Media Group, for the Cash App love and donation. And I will see y'all soon. I got to move to the Cash App. Thank y'all so much.
The Prince of Pan-Africanism is back, showing love to all my donors and supporters. We've been at it for 2 hours and we still got donations to go through.
I'll take that.
See, I get love. Y'all focus on the hate, I focus on the love.
Is that a lot?
That's a lot.
I got another donation. Donations. donations, donations, donations,
Wow, that's a lot.
gifts, 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 more gifts, more gifts, more gifts.
Wow, thanks.
Again, thank you, Harris Tribe Media Group and Anthony. I will see y'all soon. Good night.